And to have this conversation tonight. I'm excited for where things are going. A lot going on. I have good energy lately. And for once, I don't feel like I'm moving in a manic state. It feels natural. So I'm about to bring Clyde back on in a second. But yeah, if you're catching this in the Germantown area, Clarksburg, Montgomery Village, Gaithersburg areas, we grind will be up and running soon as far as hosting trips and having events and things like that. So be sure to tap in with me with that when there's still some spaces left, to sign up for. So no rush. Let's see, Clyde, you ready, bro? I'm about to bring you on in a second.
Yeah, man.
What is it, bro?
I said, yeah, just let me know right before you about to let me on. Get me on.
You already on. You was already on, but you can come on now, bro. Nah, but you gonna hop on in a second. Put your joint on me real quick till you hop on, bro. We're gonna hop on.
All right.
Have some good conversation tonight. Tonight's topic is nope, you can't cross that. We're gonna dig into some boundaries. We're gonna dive into that, man, from different angles, get different perspectives from Kay and Clyde. Have our usual convos. Trying to think if anything else is going. There you go. What's up, dog?
What's going on with you, brother?
Hey, man, how you feeling?
Feeling pretty good, man. You know what I'm saying? Had a long day trying to get me some dinner in real quick,
I peeped that in the backstage. You was getting them back.
I looked at it, so I said, "Oh, the camera on back here."
Man, I don't even know the camera on. But he was getting busy.
Yeah, sir. Been trying to get a little something on before I don't pass out on camera now.
I don't need that, bro. How the workout been going?
Pretty good, man. I've been doing real good at it. I done stepped it up to like 3 miles a day.
Oh yeah, what you doing?
What it day?
Walking?
Yeah, walking.
Oh yeah.
I do I kind of I do the walking, and I combine that with my content. So a lot of my content, I try to make myself do 3 videos a day while I'm walking.
Man, I can't. I got like a million videos to say, bro. I cannot post those joints for the life of me. I'm with you on that. You do get the most motivational stuff coming on, man, when you're working out.
Exactly. Like I usually started off I start off with a little meditation or whatever, clear my mind, and then set my my goals for the day, and then whatever pop in my mind, like whatever been weighing on me for real, that's what I just talk about, and then I just go from there for real, and let it flow from the heart.
There you go. Turn into a little preacher to yourself on that joint. Like somebody needs to hear this.
Exactly. So that's how I be playing it for real.
Nah, that's dope, bro. That's dope, man.
How you been though? How your little challenge going?
39 days, bro. One more day tomorrow. The last day of the
dog challenge going.
39 days in.
Oh man, how you?
One more day, bro. And then
how you feeling?
Hey, bro, I feel amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like, bro, like I feel like I'm finally feeling what I've been chasing. That feeling, you know what I'm saying? Like I can't really explain what it was when you're dealing with depression, but I feel like, bro, like I'm really at a space where, like I'm in a space where I've been chasing. You know what I'm saying? A space that I lost a long time ago. A space that I'm chasing, and a space where it wasn't just about the challenge. The things within the challenge, bro, kind of have you a positive thinking space. Like the last 39 days, you know what I'm saying? Even with things going, a little bit of what's going on, like not in detail, but it's been heavy. You know what I'm saying? So, it's like I'm at a space, man, where I just feel like I've been praying for like me. I've been praying for I realized now from 7 years, bro. I started praying like I just want to feel it again. I didn't know what I was asking for. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, I just don't want to feel this. I know life ain't this great. I know it ain't this heavy. I know I ain't supposed to whatever I'm up under, it's temporary, whatever that, but how long? You know what I'm saying? So now I'm at the space, bro, where I'm like, ain't nothing major happening yet, bro. But it's been a lot of small things happening, and I'm playing behind the background where I'm just like, hey, Lord, thank you. Like I really don't play around with this. When I'm walking out there on my trail, when I got the dogs out, when I'm really being mindful. I'm really in that space, bro. I'm thankful as hell. Like I didn't think like you've been in that space, so it's a space, bro. When you forget, you forget the reality of life.
Exactly. Like I've lost it. Like last year, I had it when I was on my little work, and I realized I had to come to the conclusion that working out is a part of that process. Like you can't skip that part of it because working out is big when it comes to like your mental health.
Yeah.
So when I was working out every day, like last summer, and I was doing my content, I had this feeling like it's this drive, like this fire inside of you where you can't really explain it for real. It's just you won't go. it's like you on autopilot for real. And I've been chasing that for a year now because I had lost it along the way, and I didn't got it back. So it's like I feel like when I wake up now, it's like I gotta work out. I gotta work because if I don't work out, then I can't do content. If I don't do content, I can't help nobody. So it's like I got it back, kind of like.
It's a different type of energy, bro. Like you think it's cliche, and you always realize it, man. But it's not. You don't even have to work out hard. You just gotta do something different, man. A lot of that, like just being outside, is alone is like if you don't got the energy to run, if you don't got the energy to walk fast, like just call that motherfucker and look at the trees and the grass and the birds flying around.
See, what it is you training yourself, you disciplining yourself. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And this, I seen a video and the guy was like, after motivation is gone, you need discipline because your motivation can go up and down. Like some days you might not feel motivated, but if you ain't motivated, you still need that discipline to kick in and make you do what it is that you say you want to do.
So that's the funny part.
Going out and walking every day is disciplining yourself.
Bro, that's I was about to say that, man, because I'm in that space, bro, where last week I didn't feel like doing nothing. But that was the time I knew I told myself, bro, like, all right, man, like, yeah, you be in pain, you be aching, like, but this is all you got left. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't getting that stuff back you had in the past. You gotta make the best of what you got going on right now. So, like, bro, I've been hitting and I still go hard, man. I've been killing my sons. But the part where I didn't, and some of my young guys that I be around, man, like they they what the hell is wrong with you, coach? Like, what you doing? But like, Dad, why you working so hard? It's that that's how I've always been before I got sick. So it feels good to be in that space, and there's nothing for me to go do that now. I have to learn to give myself space and kind of when to relax and when to back down, bro. But the discipline part was huge because last week, bro, like the last week and a half, I didn't feel like doing nothing. Like I had no energy. I was kind of fighting depression, you know what I'm saying, a little bit, trying to the things that was going on. Like with the loss of my aunt and some things happening within my family, bro. Like it's been heavy. So like I didn't feel like doing anything, but I made sure I got up in the morning. I ran, I walked 3 miles. If I didn't run, you know what I'm saying, I hit the gym in the evening. Got some time in with the family, whether I was in the house or working out, you know what I'm saying, like that, and kind of just being consistent, even though I didn't feel it. And then like when that feeling came back again, it was like, oh yeah, let's go. And now I'm doing more than when I was doing before that. So it was like now I'm starting to understand and pace myself where I ain't losing it. You know what I'm saying? Like
for sure.
That discipline, bro, that part plays a big role because it's not just playing a role in that space of working out. It's playing a role in how you're thinking now because you can only work out in a certain type of mindset.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can work out and say, "Oh, I hate today," if you want, and see how that's gonna go for you. See how long that workout gonna feel, and see what you really gonna do in that workout. You know
it's gonna feel like a drag. You know what I'm saying? Like you ain't gonna be able to keep up with it if you got that mindset. So that's why it's mandatory to set the tone for the day. You got to get it in. You got to do that positive self-talk. You got to set your goals for the day. You got to speak them out loud. Like I'm big on speaking. At first, I used to be like, all right, as long as I say them in my mind, I'm good. But no, I got to speak these things out into the atmosphere. I can't just say them in my mind no more. So I know people probably be seeing me. They like, boy, I hope you're on the phone talking to somebody because it look like you're talking to somebody.
Hey, bro, I do the same thing, man. It's crazy because my kids used to catch me in the car. I'll be driving and I forget the radio ain't on or it's not turned up loud, and I say something out loud. I'm like, my kids looking at me like that, like, oh yeah, he must be having an episode. You know what I'm saying? But it's not. Nah, bro. But that is and not only with the discipline coming in and working out, bro. Like you gotta when you start working out, you start eating right. You know what I'm saying? Like you start watching. It's a natural freaking process. I'm trying to cut back on cussing. So if y'all catch me cussing, I'm saying hold me accountable. But you know what I'm saying? Like so, but that eating, man, plays a big part of it because even I've always been like pretty fit, like 4% body on up. But now, like when I got into my 30s, I started eating like crazy. So I actually was what do you call it, bro? I was a obese, skinny person for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's
for sure.
But it was in that space where once I started working out that you're not going to waste that. And then you find out what you're eating and how your body's processing and you actually have more energy. So even though it's weird though, because I knew that, right? But going through depression, bro, and doing all that, you don't give a fuck about none of that. You really are in survival mode where you just like, let me just eat, get through here, stop my hunger, and I'm going back to bed or I'm going to chill out or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just weird how that go. Now we going. How you feel about the topic tonight, bro? We're gonna dive into that. I'm trying to hold up until Kay get in here.
Man, you already know, man. I've been talking about that for a little minute now, so I'm definitely ready.
Now it was funny because I think the first you started posting the videos you started posting, man. You started putting them on Twitter, not Twitter, TikTok,
TikTok. Mm-hmm.
Instagram, and Facebook. And so I think the first one you put was that or the first or second one was boundaries.
It was like I think it was the second one was like healthy boundaries or something.
Healthy boundaries, yeah. But I was meditating and thinking on boundaries, like how funny it is because how you mostly think how people think about boundaries is like no, you setting the boundaries for like this is it. I'm drawing a line right here. Mm-hmm. I'm over finito, but no, like it's a part of that. There's another side to that, right? It's the side of the person, like it's the side sometimes like setting these boundaries, like bro, they're gonna hurt because you got to put these boundaries in place in situations that you love, the people you love, and you got to be willing to accept whatever comes with that space. You know what I'm saying? Like so, and then then you naturally know how the other person feels or what they're going to go through when you sat there. So you're not just battling yourself with something, you're battling how they feel, what you're thinking about, and it becomes like a guilt type of thing. And you don't do
it. Especially you the type of person where like you carry the feelings of other people and then you don't like hurting other people. So it's like a lot of times we'll bear that and we'll deal with the nonsense. I'm gonna call it what it is. Sometimes we just deal with the nonsense of other people because we don't want to hurt them. But in the end, we really hurting ourselves. So it's like you got to make that decision. Like, is you gonna choose you, or is you gonna choose? You know what I'm saying? Like the hurt. Like what you gonna do? And it hurts to do, but you got to do it.
Yeah, but that's fast, bro. And when you put it on from another angle, like I know a lot of good people, man, that people think are assholes, right? Because of the boundaries they have in place. But if you really like, you got to sit back just off your own life experience and think about how the boundaries that you had to put in space, right? When you just moving amongst your family, you moving amongst yourself. Just think about the minimum boundaries you got to put in place. Mind your business. That ain't about you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to quit feeding to that, all that other stuff. But imagine in a space where you running businesses or, you know what I'm saying, you in the aisle, like, you got to have them boundaries where bro, they got to be different. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love that one. It's just like you kind of, if you're a CEO or something and you have a good heart, certain things that you do and what your business is and what your services are lets you know the type of person that you are, because some of the things that we do out here, man, some of the things that people do, they're not always under the spotlight. You know what I mean? Like they're not always done in a space where they're accepted. You know what I'm saying? It's not always done in a space where they're welcome with open, like basically welcome with open arms. You know what I'm saying? Like even the people that like support you turn on you sometimes, you know, a lot of times.
Sure.
So people don't realize that for a person to be considered an asshole a lot of times, by like, bro, how many times they had their heart broken? You know what I'm saying? Like, and what it took for them to put these boundaries in place. And even if it wasn't them in particular, it was taught to them by a parent who probably experienced something that was just as bad as I was just talking about. You know what I'm saying? So either way, it's passed down. But it's like a double-edged sword, because even though you do some things that best benefits you, bro, you ultimately end up being hated by a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? But
but you gotta get cool with it. Like it ain't at first it hurt, but you just gotta get to a point where you okay with it, because if you choosing you at the end of the day, it don't matter how nobody else feel about that, because you doing what's best for you. Nobody else gotta understand that. You feel me?
Yeah, facts.
It's cool if you don't understand why I did what I did, but just know that if you really love me and you respect me, like as a person, like you say you do, then just respect my decision. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it just got to be that way. And I feel like those people who don't accept it or who can't accept it, they maybe not be true friends in the first place, or whoever they supposed to be to you, they might not be that anyway, or maybe they just not the type of person to be able to understand that. But just know I'm not gonna hate you moving forward, but it's just I'm gonna love you from over here.
Facts. And it's something like that's the crazy part, man, because it's loving from a distance, you still become the bad guy sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like, because even within that boundary space, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even within that boundary space, I think like as far as like a lot of times what people pleasing comes in a space, bro, where you just want to explain yourself all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like when you just want to be like, nah, hey, bro, nah, I wasn't like that. Nah, I wasn't mad at you. I was frustrated at the situation. So if I came off a little more serious than I usually am, then I apologize. But that was none of that was directed towards you. That was just me in my head, like, hey, I'm trying to figure this out. You know what I'm saying? But a boundary that I've begun to develop now is by like, bro, I don't like if you don't want to talk about it in detail, then I'm not going to put myself in a position to explain to you over and over again because ultimately you don't believe this shit anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what's the point of me wasting my breath? So one of the boundaries I had developed was not being so much of trying to explain. And you know what I'm saying? Like, so I if I'm wrong, I always apologize. But if I feel like somebody misinterpreted me, or if I can tell somebody misinterpreted what I'm talking about, what I'm saying, or how I'm saying it, I don't bother to like give my piece on.
Fix it. Yeah, it ain't no need.
He's like, for what? You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I think tonight though, digging into the different types of boundaries. Like I said, we can dig into a little bit when Kay get on. She on her way back from practice out of DC, so that's a little hike, and she got to get settled and everything. So it's gonna be a little second. She'll be on here soon though. The type of boundaries I had.
K be moving, bro.
Yeah, Atlanta 1 week, North Carolina, DC on 3 days a week. Like, nah, she definitely get it in, man, for her sons, man. Like she don't play around. She a real sports mom out this joint.
That's dope, though. That's dope.
Yeah. So like the type of boundaries, man, like it's crazy when you sound you actually break them down. It's a lot more. It's a lot more boundaries. It's probably an infinite amount, and they're always changing, right? But like the core ones, I think the common ones are like expectations, true self boundaries, tolerance boundaries, codependencies, sexual boundaries, money boundaries, social life boundaries, conflicts, pastime boundaries, digital presence boundaries, and developing boundaries as you grow mid-relationship. That's kind of like the craziest one because that's kind of what we were talking about a couple of episodes ago when you was like, nah, like 5 years from now, if you ain't on the move, you ain't like, that's the one where it's just like, what? But what happened? That's real though. But what happens when you hit them things? Like, so am I wrong for having this boundary now because I'm putting it here, or is she wrong for how she's interpreting it? Like, or vice versa. But that's the part, man, when you start to have them conversations where like I think the ball is missed a lot of times because we don't. One of the things that we should discuss is expectations and you know what I'm saying, like. And it don't just have to be a militant type of expression where you sit on that first date. I expect you to do this. No, it's that, of course, coming after a space where you start to where you start to learn each other or you start to figure each other out in any relationship, whether that's any relationship. You know what I'm saying, like friendships. What's up, Raekwon? Lie.
They always playing.
I can get it done. Hey man, good energy, man. What's up? But nah, bro, like for real, man. Like it's just I'm gonna start calling you that too. Lie.
See what you done did, Raekwon? Get off of here.
Nah, but no, it's important, like expectations, because then it gets to a space where, like, yeah, if we didn't talk about, oh look, I knew Kay was gonna pop up. She must have heard the topic. She must have heard us start talking a little bit. What's up, Kay? About to bring you on now. You ready?
Let's go.
All right.
Hey.
What it is?
Just rushing in. You know me.
On the go, Kate.
So, look,
I came in looking like cat out the car.
Yeah, you ain't have to rush, man. I was dragging it out for you. It was because I didn't want to have to go back and have to explain everything.
Hey, good job.
No. But no, we were just getting into a little bit where let me see. We were talking about like boundaries part of it. Just like
he just named the different types of boundaries.
Thank you. So it was 10 of them that I named, and the first one was the expectations that we were saying that it's that's one of the biggest ones that's missed in so many relationships, whether that's marriage, family, friendships. It's just sometimes we expect people to know our expectations without communicating them a lot of times, right? And that's one of the big things where a lot of times, I know me personally, when I was communicating my expectations, or if I was expressing something that bothered me, I would feel bad for saying that because I know to make the other person feel uncomfortable. but it's something that you kind of sit back on and just kind of like, no, this really makes me feel uncomfortable. Like I've tried, and this is why it makes me feel uncomfortable. Okay, and I'm valid in doing that, so let me just go ahead and express that. You already know it's gonna come with that. A lot of times, it's gonna come with like a disagreement. It's gonna be like, well, I don't understand why that's personal or something like that, or I don't. It's rarely an apology. You know what I'm saying? And any spin you look at it, it's just even taking, well, that's just such and such. He's sensitive, she's sensitive. You know what I'm saying? In his feelings, things like that. So it, like, what y'all think on that?
It's so crazy because literally, I had to go through that last night. We had gone out to dinner, and my fiance's into a whole bunch of stuff, and it was something that he said to me, and he was like, yeah, you just be sitting here. Now, mind it, I was already overstimulated, because I hadn't had any rest. I hadn't taken any of my meds. I was already overstimulated, but I didn't communicate that. So, I came and he was talking, and I didn't want to be like, shut the fuck up. Because that's not, because I want him to feel like I hear you, and I'm your friend too. So he said something to me like, yeah, I'm just sitting here talking, and I didn't even, you just sitting here letting me talk. I said, really, I'm just singing in my head. Sometimes I say things and I don't think about them before I say them, because I have the expectation that he understands that my humor and the intent of it is not to hurt you. That is just, I have ill-mannered humor. So, I said it to him, and he didn't initially show that he was frustrated. And then it was like all of a sudden he just started like, he was Jerry's Subhouse. Like, it was so many subliminals he was throwing out there then. And I'm not normally sensitive in skin. Like, I'm not normally a person that like doesn't do well with criticism, or that doesn't do well with directness. I'm not normally like that, but like, things have transpired in our relationship where now it's sometimes it's hard for me to not feel triggered by certain things. So we were going out to dinner, and when I tell you, it ruined our whole dinner. The fact of like what he said or what I said triggered him to say things, and and it was really, and it initiated from me realizing that like he is hypersensitive to words. Like, in our relationship, I believe in actions, he believes in words.
Okay.
And so, and I know this about him, and I've known this about him, and it was me. I crossed the boundaries of not being mindful of the fact that like I know he's hypersensitive to words, especially my words.
Yeah.
He really takes my words literal, and I'm a big goofy ass female. Like, I joke a lot. I really do. I joke a lot, and so it really changed the course of what the night was really intended to, how it was really supposed to, to go. Okay. But I think it boils down to, the old saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah, facts.
And then when we were discussing last week about self-control, you know what I'm saying, about just because I said it, there should have been something behind it. I should have said something behind it, like, I'm joking. But then in my head, I'm overthinking, like, if I say I'm joking, he'll be like, no, you're not joking. You meant that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because you said it, you meant it.
So, you get that, like, every joke has some truth.
Yeah, every drunk mouth got some soap in it. So it was one of those things. And then I was going through something, and I don't usually hold posts or social media quotes to any type of gospel. But I was going through something on social media. I don't remember which site it was, and I had heard someone saying, the biggest disruptor in relationships is unspoken expectations.
Facts.
And I've said this to my fiance, like, if I don't know, I don't know. Don't expect me to know it because you think I should know it. If I don't know, I just don't know it. Like, it really is the fact that, like, I said something that bothered you, but I didn't say it with the intent to bother you. So if you don't let me know that it bothered you, I won't know.
Yeah. Exactly. But it's a process with that too, right? Because once you do that, you as a male got to understand that it's probably going to be a little bit of, it could be an adjustment period in between you saying like, that pissed me off, or that made me feel like this, like, and then they come back down and be a conversation. Like, so yeah, you're right. You know what I'm saying? Like, we do got to express those. We do got to. I know I do too. I got to do a better job of expressing And a lot of times it do come from a genuine space because I don't want to be the one to be ruining everybody else's mood because I'm in the space. You know what I'm saying? Like
exactly.
Yeah, Clyde.
Yeah, no, you're right though. That's facts. You definitely don't want to be the one to ruin the mood. So it's like, I'm just keep it to myself. For real though.
It gets so difficult. Communication is probably the biggest what I want to say, like the biggest turning point in anything, whether it be just the conversation, whether it be just the relationship, whether it just be, whether it be the initiation of things. Communication really is like the turning point. And if you do and sometimes it's not what you communicate, it's what you receive that was communicated to you. And so
that's facts.
And so, you and again, I think that going back to boundaries, I think that that's one of the things that should always be communicated. Like, my kid's dad, he used to always say, because his mother looks really young, and then it was me. He starts to be like, "Listen, I'll play anything but mama and my kid's mother jokes. Like we can do anything except, because we got to set the tone on like what's acceptable that we won't get offended by and what we can let roll off of us."
Yeah, facts. No, I agree with you on that one. But that's the hardest part. I think a lot of people think, man, I think we all think that we the best communicators in a sense, right? But until you really put in a position, you have to communicate. Exactly. And then you start to find out like you really got to talk about the shit you ain't comfortable with it either. You know what I'm saying? That's a part of communication. You know what I'm saying? Like
it's more than just communicating the things you don't like.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
or the things you do like. It's like you got to go deep into detail. Now it's like I can't, because if you ignore it, it ain't gonna do nothing but drive you crazy. So you might as well just go ahead and speak about it and get it out. And that's probably one of the biggest obstacles I face in my own life. Just not being a big communication. Men, like a lot of us anyway, we not big communicators because we talk growing up. Stay in a child's space, don't talk, don't do that. Like, yes.
But it's two sides of that too, right? Because it's like we taught that too, right? From the side of don't do it. But then when you do it, a lot of times you met with friction. A lot of times you met with somebody thinking you being disrespectful, and when you just like, no, I'm just trying to I'm just firm and trying to figure it out. I'm not, just because I'm not smiling, I'm not goofy, I'm not in a space where I want to get into a physical conflict about it. I just want to talk. So when you get ahead and you handle conflict in that way, when you try to get ahead of conflict to discuss it and communicate about it, people get offended about that sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like, because then why are you coming on so strong? Why are you talking to me like that? Oh, you must be you think you did. No, bro, I'm just trying to communicate. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's up? Is this what it is? Or that's what it is? Or even in situations where it is get like that, bro, we cool? Like, what's up? Everything all right? Like, let me know how to roll first. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't want to assume. You know what I'm saying?
And that's usually sometimes like one of the biggest things, like the initiation of it. Like, people just reminding someone like, hey, even asking like to initiate it, because sometimes we'll look over and be like, is now a good time to say something? We got to ask people like, what space are you in right now? And then accept that, like, and then again in self-control, accept that like if they're not in the space, even if you want to talk about it, you got to dial that back and you got to wait, because you will not get the effectiveness that you're looking for if just because you want to talk and the other person doesn't want to right now, and you're forcing them to talk. One of two things: they either gonna shut down or they're gonna blow up. It's gonna be one
and
of
then
them.
You gonna follow up on that. You gonna get defensive off of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So but that's the biggest thing, right? Because in that space, a lot of times it's ego, right? Because let's be real, in relationships, you kind of think the first thing you think like, nah, how you talking to me like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it is not out of a space where you're being egotistical or in a space where arrogant. You know what I'm saying? But you're in a space where like, bro, like it's us. Like, how you saying that to me right now? And then the other side of that is understanding and it's being in a space of understanding. All right, it wasn't the best time to have this conversation. All right, maybe I shouldn't have pushed this hard to have this conversation in that space. All right, hey, never mind. You know what I'm saying? I apologize. I see you in a good space. We can talk about this later. But then understanding exactly how to read the room on when to bring it back up as well. It's just like a skill that you got to go to school to learn. You know what I mean? Like, so
there's whole classes and courses and all types of.
Ain't no need to go to.
But look, the funny part about that is like the part about that, right? You got to learn somebody. in order for relationships to work, like you really got to be investing in somebody, like whether that's a friend, because you have to really learn that psychology, and you have to, and in that space, you understand how they think. So then when you see certain people blow up, and you already, I got some friends that wild the fuck out, right? But then I don't look at it no different because I'm like, I knew that was coming. You know what I'm saying? It was either I didn't get a hit of it before and see something, or hey, bro, like, but a lot of times it's warranted. But when you see it, it's just like I seen that coming. You know what I'm saying? So I know that I can expect certain things, and somebody do something where I feel like they made it cross me or did something. No, I seen that coming. You know what I'm saying? Like I understood I ain't mad as a part of you, but bro, we gotta talk about this. Like, you know what I'm saying, in that space. So no, it's I think the biggest part of that and the effect of communicating is like, first of all, you gotta be willing to be accountable. You gotta really see the bigger picture and shit. You really gotta see like it ain't just how you feel. You really got to understand where that other person is coming from. That's why I mean in psychology. You got to understand how they grew up. You got to understand the things they've seen, what they impacted them, why they respond in certain ways. You kind of look at a life and kind of put some things together for yourself, and then talk to them, right? And then be graceful. You know what I'm saying? Get them grace. And because you ain't the same way you look at this motherfucker, the same way somebody look at your ass, like, man, I can't stand this nigga. But I love it. You know what I'm saying? But no, it's just in that space, man, where it's just.
That's what takes you all the way back to communication, though.
I was about to go right
you
there.
You can't get far without the communication.
But we hate to talk. We all think we good at talking. We all think no, we talk.
If anybody asks me right now, I'm about to say, if you ask me what's the most important quality or what's the most important thing in a relationship, it's gonna automatically be communication for me. And I ain't talking about just talking back and forth. I'm talking about really going back and forth. What bothers you? What when you don't like? How can we still have a civilized conversation when you mad? Like, I need all of these things. Like, we have to talk about these things together, regardless. Put the egos, pride aside, and have these conversations. If we can't do that, then I really, honestly feel like it can't grow.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Bro. But that's the hard part, because a lot of times you put in that space where it's really somebody you want to grow with. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really somebody in the space where you just like. Sometimes a lot of times the boundary is in the space of negativity. Like, you know what? For my own health, I gotta let you go. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta just go do your thing until you figure things out, because clearly we can't get to a space of communication. But until you get that together, I still got love for you, but I have to handle that boundary within myself, not to go there until things are taken care of, or even acknowledged or accounted for. You know what I'm saying? Like, until you're real with yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, and a lot of times we blame each other rather than taking a stop and looking at it like, damn, wait a minute. But how did I say that? Or what did I do? Or what have I done? Or how did that matter? How might I have that look to that other person? You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just a place, man, where we got to get away from that selfishness.
For sure.
That you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just that it's just. My bad. I'm getting like 2 text messages. I'm trying to adjust, getting DJs finished signed up for football. So you know how that go. Deadline for registration. So no, man, like, so having those boundaries in that space of communicating and expectations, right? Just letting them know, like, you don't have to be rude about the communication part of it. You don't have to be in a space of disagreement. You just have to, hey, it's as simple as, hey, I would rather you not do that, or hey, I thought we were doing this time. Can we do it this way, or can you? Because that's how it's impacted me. Not so much in a blaming way, particular way, but just made me feel like certain way. And there's a lot of words for men to say sometimes. So I was like, and then you feel self-centered, bro, because you're in a space where you're like, you should just get it. Like, you should know, like, if I said this to you in this way, you would be extremely pissed off. But then you're not me. So then you know what I'm saying? Like, so you got to be in a space where you just understand. I'm like, all right. What you said, it made me feel like this because that, right? And then you start to understand that. It slows the argument down to a space where nobody's defensive. They're like, nobody's really criticizing. It's in a space where it's just, okay, all right. A lot of times you won't, and the heat of argument is not sitting in that space. But if you're dealing with somebody logical, it comes back around and an apology is made sometimes.
Well, no, that's a big thing. Apologies should always, even if sometimes, if you send the block.
See, then it's like, but it.
What'd you say, Clyde?
Yeah,
Clyde got a delay today.
But I think that depends on the person that you. Am I delayed?
Oh yeah, he got a delay today.
Lord, I'm right beside the box with the delay. I am upset about that.
It ain't that bad, but it's something
It's
going
not
on.
good.
It ain't bad as it was last week.
Oh, the week before that. Last week he was good. The week
Yeah,
before that,
facts.
trash.
But I was about to say, I think that just depends on the person that you're dealing with for real, because a lot of times, when we get into that space trying to explain ourselves or whatever like that, you could get hit with a like you whining or like you soft or whatever like that, because it seems like you complaining when you like, well, I felt this kind of way when you did this. So then it's like you got to be careful on what you complaining about.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like, but it also depends on the person that you with too. I'm
Is
saying
it complaining though? Is it complaining, or you really at this point now you just
that's
fed
what
up?
it be. That's what they. Depending who you dealing with, like that's what you might be met with once you try to have those kind of conversations. Because I mean, you do have people who see things a complete, totally different way from you. So
Mm-hmm.
if you tell them like, look, I ain't trying to be disrespectful or nothing, but the way you said such and such bothered me or whatever like that. Then next thing you know, she telling her homegirl, girl, this nigga soft as hell. You know what I'm saying? He can't even
That's
take a
what she
look. He can't
said.
even take a look. No, I'm just saying like somebody might could
Because
say
he
that. Like,
definitely be like, all she do is nag. You absolutely right though, Clyde. You absolutely right. Because
That's
people
fact.
don't keep again, like I said, people sometimes it all depends on like it's not the message sometimes. Most times it's the
delivery.
delivery. You know what I'm and literally if we slow down the message and pay attention to the delivery, we would get it would get delivered the right way. As
Yeah.
long
Which is
as
crazy.
but some it might you might have to move a little slower to deliver it. You could some people can take you being direct like, hey, that was effed up. And some
Right.
people you do got to set them down like, it really bothered me when you said such and such, and the reason it bothered me was because such and such. But but that's you have to know your audience sometimes. Sometimes you got to know your audience. And that
Is it
takes patience. That just like you said, that takes patience, that takes grace, it takes effective communication.
Yeah.
so then like, but this the crazy part about like those kind of situations like that, because you saw how you break it down, you be like, well, I felt this kind of way when you said this and or whatever like that. You say it like that is, oh, you saw it, da 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 da. But then as soon as I say B da 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 da, stop playing da da. Oh, it's oh my bad, daddy, my bad. Like I don't understand that, like how you respond
I
to the
can't wait
aggressive.
till Clyde stop messing with them chicks. I
No,
can't stand the chicks that Clyde be
no,
messing with.
no, this
Those
is not like
that's
the
the
girlfriend I have now. Like the girlfriend I
He
have now is not like that. This is just what I see, like what I observe on a daily. Like I observe these kinds of people, and I come across these kind of people. Like this is in no way like my relationship now.
okay. Because I'm
Nah,
sitting here saying, save go save him.
she told me go save her. No, 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 no.
I was say, Cloud, you got a rough over that, bro. But no,
I'm just
Right.
trying to
No
speak.
wonder you on here
I'm just
loquaciously
trying to speak
talking.
from a just trying to speak from a space of like people who may be going. Know what I'm saying, who may be dealing with somebody like that.
yeah,
And
facts,
I
facts,
have
facts.
dealt with people like that in the past, so I know exactly how it be like, and it actually changed the person that you are, because I ain't no really like real verbal, outspoken kind of person for real. I tell you how I feel, but if you don't understand it, then I'm the type of person that'll just leave. Like I ain't never had no problem with just disappearing. And
Well, I
I
think we,
just,
like I said, we all have our vices when it comes to communicating. Like, as long as you know yourself. But again, that comes down to communicating that to your audience. Again, knowing your audience. We all have our vices on communicating. Like, I hate repeating myself multiple times. I don't like dragging something out too long. I'm cool with going back to it, but like if we've been having this same conversation for 30 minutes, like the way my attention is set up, I can't. It pulls too much out of me, and then I shut down. Or if the conversation just feels like it's like barking. I'm not even a puppy dog, but like I'll turn into a puppy dog. Like I'll give up on the conversation. You know what I'm saying? I'll spend the block on it once I get myself back together. But I know myself in that space. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
myself in that space because I told you my self control goes that way. Otherwise, I'm going to revert back to being who I used to be, and I'm going to bark back, or I'm going to bite back, or I'm going to say disrespectful things. And so in trying to keep myself in a space where I can, at least you can get your message out. You know what I'm saying? I gotta dial myself back. You have to know your own vices, but you gotta know your audience. Like, I know certain people, if they come to me like, hey, can I talk? I know this is gonna be a long conversation. I know some people come to me like, hey, I want to holler at you real quick. I know it's going to be short, sweet, direct, and to the point. I know it's not going to take a bunch of time. I know it's people that I'm like, hey, I got to call you back because such and such want to talk, because I know they're going to be talking. And I know people I can be like, hold on real quick, such and such is called. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to know your audience.
No, you're right about that. You definitely got to realize who you're talking to. But that's in that space too, where you got to go into the next things where like self-love and knowing yourself too, right? Because if you do, then you're a little bit more impatient with boundaries. You'll say it once, you'll say it twice, you'll say it 3 times, you'll say it 4th and the 5th time. But then it comes 6 or 7, it might not get to that 10th time. You know what I'm saying? Like, but again, it goes back to that space where it's just man, like, I don't know. I just got thrown off like big time. No, but it just go back to that space of self-love, man, where it's where you recognize and you have these boundaries, that self-love comes in and kind of helps you out in that space, right? But then the boundaries to exercise self-love is work, right? Because then you have to have boundaries with yourself. Mm-hmm. Like some of the things that you love doing, like you got to kind of step back on, like some of the things that make you comfortable, like you have to develop a boundary for yourself sometimes for the other party, whether that's friend, girlfriend, wife, mother, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Because that's just how that space works. But that's the hard part of the boundaries, man, where like it's not, when you hear people talk about it all the time, like I exercise my boundary, no, I put my boundary in place, and not if you cross this boundary. No, it's not that simple. Because if you really care about the individual, you have to put the boundaries that you have to exercise the most of the people you care about the most. It ain't always with the strangers. Those strangers, you don't have a problem checking that boundary. But the people you care about the most, man, like it's in that space where you just like, it's gonna hurt me, it's gonna hurt you. But if you love me, then you're gonna do this. Some boundaries where if you love me, then you're gonna be in a space of making sure that we take care of what we gotta take care of. Or vice versa. If I love myself, then I'm not gonna keep putting myself in a position to keep taking this. You know what I'm saying? Because you know how I get. It's just that space of just understanding where it's that space of understanding, right? And under true self, under your true self. And that's the hardest part of life. And that was one of the hardest things in life to do for me, was like get down to who I was, because it was behind all that people pleasing stuff. It was behind all that stuff where like you worried about, you know, what people thinking about you in the space, or you don't want to seem too rude, or you don't want to seem ghetto, or you want to seem like it's in a space where like that boundary with yourself is like, you know what? Nah, I'm me. And the true boundary within that space is if I'm going into a space where, like you said, where you got to know your audience. I'm going into a space of the people that I'm around, they want me there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a space where I'm worried about somebody gonna kill me or not anymore. You know what I'm saying? That space. This is that space where now I'm going around. My boundary is I'm not going in those spaces where I even have to think twice about that kind of stuff. So now it's in a space where, all right, I'm purposely putting myself in a space where I know, like, I enjoy and realizing that conflict and disagreements can happen. That boundary within myself is to make sure that I'm never coming from a space of anger. And if I'm in a space of communication, then it's in a space of me just trying, for my understanding, it ain't got nothing to do with you or your ego or coming at you or trying to make you feel smaller. It's for my understanding. And a lot of times people don't like explaining themselves.
No, they don't. They, like I said, that extended conversation sometimes, that extra conversation sometimes is a bit much for some people. Like I said, especially when you come in and you already don't know what mood someone's in. So you come to them and they're in a mood that you're unaware of, and you thinking, hey, I can just talk. But again, like, there a lot of times communication before the communication is necessary. And then, like I said, you having the self-control, or you having the patience to be like, this ain't the time, for the purpose of the conversation. Like, if I really want this to be a successful conversation, I'm gonna have to take some patience in this one right here. Just because I want to do it doesn't mean that they want to do it. Like,
Facts. What you got, Clyde?
Yeah, I got it. Y'all got it.
So Clyde, you like, what you got, Clyde? Clyde ain't got nothing. As soon as you get
I know, Clyde. What's up with you today?
Look, y'all got it.
Go on, Clyde. You good, bro?
You're not even delayed. You right with us today, right now.
See, yeah, and then I start talking, and then I be bouncing all over the place.
You gotta talk through that. You good? We can still hear you.
For sure. What's the last thing you said, Kay?
Just knowing your audience. So I think that when we speak about boundaries, like, how do you guys implement it? Like, what type of boundaries do you implement for what purposes? Because there's different boundaries, different strokes for different folks. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I know there's certain boundaries that you implement for your kids that you might not implement for, your brother kids, or you know what I'm saying? Like, what decisions do you make? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the criterion for how you assess and set your boundaries?
That's a good question. Go ahead, Clyde.
I don't really necessarily say like, well, as far as criteria, I think I done got to a point in life where I pretty much know what I can accept, what I can deal with, and what I won't like tolerate. So it just kind of fall in there. Like if it's something, it's like my morals. Like if it's something that I know 100% I can't deal with, then I'm gonna let that be known. I don't know. It's just it depends where it falls on that in between those three categories. Like if it's something I can deal with, then I pretty much won't say too much about it. I let it be known that we can work through this right here. That's something that we can work through. This right here, this a no-go. This a no-fly zone right here. So if you do this right here, I'm telling you right now, you duct tape. Like that's pretty much with me. I don't even break boundaries down into categories for real. I just got a set of boundaries. I know what I will take and I know what I won't. It's no like, that the 10 that you named in the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't even know what half of them are. For one,
it will make you uncomfortable.
Well, can you run back through those 10? Because I think that was.
Yeah, I got you.
And for one, before you go through them 10, I'm gonna just say this. It may also just be like, because I'm just now really starting to implement boundaries, like healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
I'm just now starting to do that now at this age that I am. So that's why a lot of the different categories of boundaries I'm not even familiar with. I just got to a point now where I know where I'm trying to get to, where I've been. So I know that it's certain things that I can't accept or tolerate or deal with. And then I know what I can moving forward. So that plays a big part in it too, like, because I grew up not really having boundaries. I just put up with the people who was in my life because I felt like I had to.
No, that makes sense. I think I'm gonna call on those lines as well. You know what I'm saying? Like the boundaries that I have are kind of like, it wouldn't allow me to go into a situation where I have to my boundaries I have going into relationships, even though I am like I'm pretty open-minded with a lot of things. It's in a space where I'm patient. Like the strict boundaries that I do have, it wouldn't allow me to get to a space where I would feel that I have to implement like all these different type of boundaries like immediately off the back. You know what I'm saying? That makes sense. So like going into a relationship, like I kind of go what Clyde was saying, where it's just I notice where if we're going along the way, and something makes me feel uncomfortable, or something that you've done, or if the way you hug this guy, or you know what I'm saying, or vice versa, or the way me and you spoke in front of me and my homeboy got into it in front of people and things like that. It's in that way of just, hey, bro, like we can't do that again. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? Like whatever that came with that, whatever that energy was, like let's just keep it here. We handle whatever else outside of this, and we can take care of it later on outside of the space of anybody else, or vice versa with your significant other or your spouse. It's more in that space where, like, all right, in long-term relationships, of course, things are going to evolve, right? And that's one of the boundaries I'm going to talk about earlier, where like not even the boundaries, something I want to talk about within the space of boundaries, right? Because as you're evolving that relationship, you're growing. And then you're changing. So some of the things that you were into, you may have been having an open mind with, and you're a little bit more experimental with, you had a little bit more patience for when you were in your 20s and early 30s. That may be something that you not even into anymore in your 40s, or anywhere near interested in, or even hobbies and things like that. So exercise the boundaries and having the patience to communicate your boundaries and for that boundary to be heard and now put into action. That's a long process. You know what I'm saying? So like to have to do that shit over and over and over again it's just like, all right, I try to be petty. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of things that bother me don't just bother me, make me feel bad, or it's something I'm moody about. It's legit things where like, that was kind of fucked up, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I get where you was coming from, but we could talk right now. We can talk. We can be patient, but I can give the same energy. I don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's in that space where it's a huge thing of understanding on all sides, because I don't want to be in a relationship where I have to feel like I set boundaries, but I want to be in a space where I have the flexibility to adjust to my own boundaries, you know what I'm saying, to my own new me and to their boundaries and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but you still didn't run down this 10 for me real quick.
Oh,
and
no,
Clyde looking like he ain't trying to go through this list again.
Yeah, no,
go ahead.
Well, okay. The first one was expectations, right? And the second one was true self, tolerance, codependency, sexual, money, social life, conflicts, pastime, digital presence like social media and things like that. And that was it. But then I had at the bottom of it talking about developing boundaries as you grow, like mid-relationship. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of went into that part before reading it off. My bad.
Gotcha.
So what does that look like, right? Let's do something like sexual boundaries. You know what I'm saying? Like you grow, you mature, you get old, you get old bones, you get you get arthritis in your joints. Like, so things ain't always so like things ain't always like it was early on, especially if you've been together a long time. But and then also sometimes there's some freaky motherfuckers out there. You know what I'm saying? Like to where like as you get older, the other person is like, all right, that was fun, but hey, bro, I ain't got it no more. You know what I'm saying? Like, or even simple things as I don't like sex no more. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're in a space of like what does that look like for y'all? Like with that, you know what I'm saying? You got Clyde.
Kate, I'm gonna let you go first on that one.
You gotta go deep. You gotta go. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I'm not. Yeah. So when it comes to sexual boundaries, so gender circumstances or just mental and emotional circumstances play a role in sexual boundaries sometimes too, because it doesn't always have to just be your age. It could be what you're going through. If you're not in a space where, let's just say, like, the sexual boundaries come into where one person does and one person doesn't feel like it. You know what I'm saying? It does not mean, oh, I don't want you, I don't love you, you're not good with her, I don't want it. People are wired differently when it comes to intimacy. And so, we'll use myself as an example. Even getting on this show tonight I'm always on the go. You know what I'm saying? I'm always on the go. So slowing down sometimes literally means just slowing down. Like, I don't want to do something extracurricular all the time. Because I've already been overstimulated with all the other pieces of my life that has come. And meanwhile, I have an individual who didn't have to do as much as I had to do today. So they're ready. Fact. So there becomes times where, there has to be an understanding, or there is an understanding. For me, there is an understanding that, like, even if I wanted, today ain't a good day, because like she clearly has been everywhere all day, overstimulated, and it could be other factors. Like I said, I didn't take my meds, or I was just sad today, or like, today just was not the day. Tomorrow might not be the day. And the way I'm wired, it might not be for a couple of days. But, in understanding those boundaries, like, it does befall on the fact that, like, I have a responsibility to my relationship. So do I ignore my own boundaries and give you some bullshit ass? Or is my expectation valid of feeling like, okay, well, like, I'm not in the space and I know you are, but like, what I'm going through, and I've communicated that I'm not in a space, and you know what I'm saying? It just boils down into like, where do who accommodates who for how long, for in what spaces when it comes to intimacy. Like, we can't, it looks different for different circumstances.
That's facts. No, that's true. That's true.
I agree with that. I'll say me personally, because I'm the type of person like if I'm not there emotionally or like just say my mind elsewhere or I done had like a stressful day or something like that. I don't even be in the mood for real. Like so I ain't even tripping, I ain't mad. So if she not in the mood either, I ain't gonna bother me now. I ain't gonna leave because you had sex, or I'm not gonna step out because you're not having sex because I
Yeah.
understand what a woman goes through on a daily basis, and a lot of the stuff she's probably not even talking about, and that's just way beyond the physical. I ain't talking about the cycles and all that other stuff y'all deal with. I'm talking about emotional stress, going to work, dealing with home life, trying to balance everything, dealing with just everything. Like I understand all this stuff. So if I got that same patience with her, she had the same patience with me. I feel like we on the same level. We good. But it's just I think that's just it varies though. It depends on the person that you with. You gotta have that person who's on that same wavelength with you. I say wavelength. I don't know what else to put in that spot,
Mhm.
but
I was like, you good? Frequencies, whatever. Like, just,
yeah,
we all get it either way.
if you find somebody who's on that same timing as you, then you good. I feel like you straight. But that's also kind of hard to find too.
Nah, that's,
That can be
Devin, and I
hard
was
to
actually
find
going to
because
ask.
y'all
I
can
was
be
going
so compatible. And
go ahead, finish that, Clyde.
go ahead, I'm about to say y'all can be so compatible in a whole bunch of other categories, but then it could be that one category where y'all don't agree, and then it's like, what you do then? So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Nah, I agree with
so
you.
Devin, I was going to ask because Clyde, I don't know your child situation. Do you have children?
I don't have any kids.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so then this is only halfway for you.
Okay.
So like, and
Okay.
then with the whole, and Davin, this is also for you, in understanding like blending your kids into a situation with a adult that's not their parent.
Oh yeah.
So like, I don't know if it's the same for you. Like I know that you have, your children have, you have more than one child with more than one individual. So currently your wife is not the mother of all of your children, but when y'all have those moments when everybody's in the same area, for you, was it ever the boundary of like, hey, my kids are not used to me being intimate with another woman, so hold on a second? Or was it, or even just for you, like, so for me as a female, I have all sons, and so I'm like, my sons, I don't want my sons to hear me falling from the ceiling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I
Fair,
I
fair.
don't
I
want
got
them
you.
here. I don't want them to hear me dropping it high, low, or in the middle. I don't want, you know what I'm, especially because they are males,
Uh,
and they are the males of my household at the moment. And so as a woman, that, like Clyde was saying, like when your head is somewhere else, like that is in my head, like just
uh-huh.
the respect factor. Like I've worked really hard for my kids, for my reputation to be well enough for my sons to not feel ashamed, because it's some moms out there that they be like, your mama nasty. And
Hey,
then that,
hey,
that plays a huge part in the man that either they turn out to be, or the boy that they have to be in the street defending that. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? I've worked very hard to make sure that like I keep my intimate and my private life just
yeah,
that, intimate and
Or,
private. And
or even one more thing, it also may determine the type of woman that they go for.
right,
facts,
absolutely,
facts,
absolutely.
facts.
So and then being with someone who that wasn't the case, like that wasn't their case. Sometimes there's a struggle there, and like it just not understanding, or um it being like, okay, so is this always going to be the case?
Yeah,
No, but
yeah,
right now this is it. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
No,
yeah.
but right now this is like, what did your boundaries look like? And this is just just me asking you, because I know that it looks different for a male than it does a female. And again, I
Yeah,
know that you had to blend, and
yeah,
you have daughters,
yeah, facts.
and so you know what I'm saying, like
Yeah,
it. And I know how you teach your daughter. I know exactly how you deal with and teach with your daughters. So like, how did that, what type of, how did those boundaries,
that was kind of
pre-marriage?
pre-marriage. That was the part that was the part where that I like even young I was strict on. You know what I'm saying? Because I had my oldest daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when I walked away, when relationship ended for me, it wasn't in the space of like, yes, I'm out of there. You know what I'm saying? I'm gone. It was in the space of like mourning. You know what I'm saying? It was like heartbreak. It was in the space of like, yeah, some things transpire, yeah, some things within the space, but ultimately, like, it got there out of one for either one of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it was kind of a space where the respect for them a lot of the time, like, it's surprisingly, like, I let people assume, let people say what they wanted to say about whatever I had going on, but I was concrete on being a man around my kids, especially my girls. My daughters, my oldest don't know anybody other than Donita, my older mother, and then Tina, my wife, and then, you know, and my ex-fiance, my ex that I was with for some years, her name was Trisha. Outside of those 4 women, my oldest 2 have never met anybody else that I've ever been friends with like that, talked to in the space. So I've always made sure that if you come around my kids, it's in the space of like, we've been around for like a year now. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if you're uncomfortable with it, like, yeah, maybe some spaces where they might see you in passing, or they might say what's up to you in the car or something like that. But actually being in your space and being allowed to make decisions like that impact my kids, it's always been at arm's length. And I think that's one of the frustrations that I've experienced, because now it requires understanding on both ends. Like, a lot of times, and it's not just me, it's other men as well, but when we are put into that space, you get into things like, don't have that be around my kids. And like, whoa, I've been around, this been my girl for a year and a half now. I'm pretty sure I'm able to make decisions for myself and who to have logically around my kids and who's good for them. Every man isn't like that. Every woman isn't like that, right? Mm-hmm. But I knew that if I couldn't give them the family structure that I wanted, I at least wanted them to see a man. Like you don't see a man running out there and using you, or just coming in there and getting things from your mother and things like that, or you don't see me hopping from woman to woman to woman and seeing me friend. No, you will never see that. You know what I'm saying? But it's in that space because I wanted you to be mindful about the type of woman that you are going to become. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it wasn't in the space where you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this. It was in the space more of, at least on my end right here, you ain't gonna ever be able to say your dad did that. You ain't gonna ever be able to say your dad was a Rolling Stone. You ain't gonna ever be able to say, like, that's one of the main reasons that I've always had long-term relationships. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's in that space where, like, that's one thing that's one boundary I have with myself, despite outside of myself. Like, yeah, things happen when you get like a one night stand and things like that. But a lot of my female friends were legit friends. I let people talk about the things that they thought were going on and things like that. And if it was somebody that was close enough to know the situation, then I will go ahead and explain it further. But outside of that, I'll let people think what they want to think. But my daughters connect. If you walk up to any one of my daughters, how many girlfriends have I had? 2, 1? I don't know. Like, I didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never seen my father around a bunch of women. But a lot of times, like, that's the space where I came from with my girls. They came early. My boys, as I get married, thank God, with this part with having a blended family, like, I had a wife that loved kids. Even from, like, when we met, she had 3 or 4 god kids. You know what I'm saying? So it was in a space where I never really went out of my space to ask her to, or put her in a position to be a stepmom before marriage. Like, a lot of things that she did before marriage was in a space where, like again, she didn't meet my kids. Like, me and her were friends for a minute before we started dating, like legit friends. I was watching my stepson for her while she had work, nothing like that. We going back and forth. She taking me to work, but it was nothing but strictly friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, and then it goes into that space where, like, she'll laugh. Like, she say, y'all, your family knew my son before I even met your daughters. You know what I'm saying? But then the love that she had, and she always understood why I moved like that. She always understood that, like, it was I have these girls that are watching everything that they see from me. So they already, I don't know what they're hearing on their end, but what they're going to see on my end is they want to see their father. You know what I'm saying? So as they get older, they can be able to sort things out for themselves. Like, I've never seen that situation going on like that. You know what I'm saying? But you'll be surprised what goes on in that space. But with my wife, I was just blessed, man, to have somebody that understood what it took to be, that comes with a blended family, that although she had her challenges within that space, she went to somebody that can really give her a perspective, somebody that dealt with it rather than somebody that didn't, right? So, you know, those boundaries in that space come all kinds of places, all kinds of ways sometimes, because even though you're in that space, for me, I have to be a person of the father. Like, so you father in the house is easier because the kids in the house, the kids already understand how things work. But outside the house, it's like, all right, well, dad's mind is, okay, they don't really understand how we work in here like that. Okay, but I understand why you're frustrated. But I understand how you're taking it, but I understand how they taking it right now, but how they should taking it, but how we will communicate that to everybody. Okay, there's no way in hell we can communicate to everybody. So let's just move in a space of respect. You know what I'm saying? Understand it. You know what I'm saying? So, but luckily, like, my my daughters, they run to my stepmother, and she knows everything before I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so my wife and my daughter mother, Danita, they have a really good relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like, they like family. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool with Brian, her husband, and things like that. So it's in a space where it really is like being in a blended family with them makes it easier because Brian has a few kids alone. You know what I'm saying? Like, but
I saw.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but if you're dealing with somebody that you're dealing with ego, where somebody like, don't be ahead of around my kids, like, bro, like people really feel like that, and sometimes they're justified in what they're going through, but you have to have that boundary as a man to understand, like, all right, well, you can say whatever you got going on, but this boundary with myself, I'm gonna make sure I communicate to my kid in a way they understand and what they need to know, and I'm gonna show them what I can show. You know what I'm saying? But in that space, it was just making sure that my girls seen that and making sure that my boys seen a man, that my boys in a space where it's just like, all right, yeah, like my boys can if my boys say, have you ever seen your father look at another woman around them? And I think, hell no. You know what I'm saying? Like, because of simple things like, do you see things that are attractive? Do I mention to them like, oh, she was pretty, or like she was nice, or something like that? Yeah, and communication of teaching them how to be a man in that space. But it's never in a space of disrespect. It's never in a space of feeling like you have to be overly a go get it to get it, or you have to be desperate, or you have to go show off. No, like you can admire beauty and you can keep it moving. You ain't gotta break your neck like, damn, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like in that space. So it's teaching them in the space of in a world when you sexualize everything that, all right, like I see my mother and my father. And that's the blessing of having the kids in the marriage inside the house that I see now, because now you see it in a space where my kids see disagreements. You know what I'm saying? It's not two totally different sides. My kids see how disagreements work amongst men, women, husband and wife, the granddad, mother, you know what I'm saying? Like they grandmother, mother, granddad, father, they see how all these different things are playing out and they're learning how to navigate into that. So my oldest son, so he act like me. It pisses me off sometimes because he's so cool, right? About the things that happen. And he kind of, he doing it in space where I correct him. He be like, all right, my bad, like, I fucked up. I know he ain't gonna do it again. But the way that he's receiving it, way of giving it, it's like, bro, but it's teaching him in a space of where like you don't always have to be over emotional about what you go through. And I also teach him in a space of being firm and having conversation. That just because it's a disagreement or just because somebody else feels uncomfortable. We had a situation with his teacher last year, an older white guy, where he kept sending reports that saying that Chase was being disrespectful because he was looking him in his eyes. But then I realized that man is not used to a sixth grade student being firm, shaking his hand, looking in his eyes and saying, I'm not being disrespectful. If you're taking it as I'm disrespecting you because I'm looking in your eyes and I'm communicating to you how I feel, you can call my dad. He's not being disrespectful. He's came to you 3 times and said, hey, I'm doing my work. Hey, this is not what I meant. Hey, this is what I'm saying. And then he got to a space where he said, man, I can cut your ass off right now, but that's not where I'm at. I'm gonna just go ahead and put. So if he's seen me exploding all the time, if he's seen me in a space of being irrational, if he's seen me in a space of being impulsive, and you got to understand, like I went through this dealing with my bipolar and my depression. So even though people look like I was losing it, I was keeping the most important things together for them. Like you gonna see me down, but you're gonna see me get the fuck up. So for the longest time, he kept saying, Dad, you can be saying you're going to the gym for the last year and a half. But now he like, and I've been telling him in that space, like, yeah, you're right, but I'm gonna do it. And then it's gonna just come a time. I'm telling you now because I'm building myself to get to that point, I'm gonna do it. But I made sure he's seen me do it. But then I also seen that when I made him see the workforce behind that, and like, bro, I don't play around in the gym. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I was chilling because I work hard. I know what I gotta do to get to that. So if you ever get to a space where you want to kick back and relax, all right, go ahead and take that breath. But realize the work you have to put in to get back into a space that's comfortable for you. You know what I'm saying? So it's all in a space of my girls, I wanted them to see a man that I wanted them to kind of gravitate towards as they got older. For my boys, I wanted them to seek to treat women in the space of just and understanding conflict. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's in that space of just a lot of things. I didn't purposely put that boundary in. I just made sure the boundaries I had kind of created the boundaries within that space as well.
Set a foundation for them.
You know what I'm saying? That makes sense? I got a little rambling.
It happens to the best of us. Except for Clyde, who's got his mic on.
Look, Clyde, your mic ain't on.
Okay, most definitely. I agree with you, bro. And then me just outside looking in, it's something else that you're teaching your kids that you probably don't even realize. You actually teaching your kids that if they're in a relationship with somebody and it's not working, you can be an efficient co-parent.
Facts.
Where you can co-parent effectively.
Facts.
because they not seeing you and their mama have a bunch of back and forth arguing, fussing, doing a whole bunch of this and that. They just seeing that, okay, like my daddy actually in my life, my mama actually in my life. They may not be together. So when they come around you and your wife now, they seeing that relationship. Plus they seeing that, okay, well, daddy, they seeing like the
Yeah,
growth.
yeah.
You
Man, that's
know,
the part
y'all
where
know
the
what I'm trying to
boundaries.
say. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's where the boundaries come in too, right? Because to get to this point, it was rocky as hell. You know what I'm saying? Like we went through the
oh, I
disagreements. You know
believe
what I'm
it.
saying? Like in that space, and not what we went through everything that everybody else go through, especially like we went through everything everybody else went through. But it got to a space where with communication and understanding, right? And it gets to a space where you just like, you know what, like at heart, I know this person. It ended up coming
Mhm.
back to being a person who I knew, and then she looked at me for the person who I was. A lot more have gotten done as far as just communicating. You know what I'm saying? Like it ain't perfect, but when you communicate to an understanding, you understand that everything doesn't have a bad intention behind it. Some things just, it just happen amongst life. You know what I'm saying? So, but you have to be mature enough. You have to be in a space of having an open mind to get to that space. But also as a man, you have to have that boundaries that, bro, like you say what you say is truthful, you mean what you say, and you can try to explain it in a way somebody understands it, but people understand things the way they want to understand it, and you have to be okay with
Mhm.
that. So therefore,
Mhm.
but I always tell my kids, and I've always told my wife, like just be consistently you. Just be consistently who you are, and then all that should have died down to the side. But they can't take away from you. You know what I'm saying? If you're consistent. So that part right there, man, kind of anchors you down in your boundary because it's like, all right, yeah, you just cut me out, you just cut, but I'm not gonna go there with you. That's a
Right. What Michelle say? When they go high, when they go low, we go high.
you go. You're right.
You do, but again, like I said, going back to knowing your audience and just knowing yourself, having your own self control, and like you said, being consistent in your self control, and being consistent in understanding, what's in front of you. One of the things I always say is that I'm cool with agreeing to disagree.
Fact.
I'm
Fact.
cool
Fact.
with that. And I've said it before, like that doesn't mean that you're wrong. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that I'm right. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that you're right. It doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It just means that we have two different opinions, and that's just what it is.
That's
Like,
what it is.
that's a boundary that we know that we're never going to um until we both get to a space of understanding that in our own interpretations, whether it be
Yep.
maturity or experience or just growth in that manner or just acceptance in that manner, we have to understand that, like, this is spaces that we're going to just agree to disagree in, and be mindful of those boundaries of we're going to agree to disagree with. And that doesn't mean that if I disagree with it, that you can't, that it's you don't get to do it. Like I just don't agree with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that if you disagree with it, that I'm shut off because I don't disagree with, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just builds up with with communicating that and understanding that, people's the reason we set our own boundaries, or we set our boundaries with whatever type of relationship we're in, or whatever type of relationship we have our boundaries set for,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be our kids. We have certain boundaries that set for our kids on purpose to give them structure, to avoid them from being hurt, so we don't go to jail. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Facts.
It's
Facts.
certain boundaries that we put in place that are appropriate for our kids, for our children. And some of those boundaries are placed not just because they're our kids, but they also are their age, their experiences. Devin's favorite word, their traumas.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in a circumstance where you have no boundaries set, and you're adding more trauma to your kids' trauma because you didn't set the boundary on how you present people to them, where
Yeah.
you present them at, what environments you put them in. And you literally have the ability to dictate that when they're of certain ages,
Mm-hmm.
but also setting a boundary of understanding the resolution, or the solving that issue with your kid, like what that boundary looks like, hey, I understand that you don't like something,
Yeah.
but what you're not going to do is, and it doesn't have to be said what you're not going to do, but what is not going to work, or what's not effective, is that you communicate that you don't like something in that manner to me. because that comes off XYZ or whatever it may be, or because I don't want you to get used to talking to me like that, and then turn around and go talk to someone else, like you said, the situation with the teacher. Imagine if Chase was not a child that looked you in your eyes, because that's respectful for us. But imagine if he was just trying to talk back, disrespectful, spoke rude, acted way too mature, just disregarded your position, not just as his father, but as an adult. This is where we get into the boundaries of entitlement, where a lot of kids these days have that. And not just kids, just individuals in general. Like, a lot of people don't realize that your boundaries are set because of your experiences, your traumas, the things that trigger you, the ways that you grew up. But then you have to understand that why aren't those boundaries for them? That's where the communication comes in. Like, if I tell you, like, listen, if all I say is, Devin, when you come home, be home by 12:30, and you're like, I'm 40 years old. The fuck you remember? Be home when I be home. But you don't know that that I lost my daddy at 40. I didn't, but like, I lost my dad at 40 because he didn't come home one day. Like, if I don't explain that to you, it just looks like I'm saying XYZ, but really it's like, that's a trauma for me. And I'm setting this boundary, like, it doesn't have to be that you need to be in the house, but I need to hear something from you by 12:30.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because otherwise, then my nervous system starts to look different, and and things get broken down for me. So the communication in those boundaries is probably the hardest part, because then you have to kind of go in depth, and sometimes people are ashamed as to why they have those boundaries.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Especially and I was speaking on the sexual ones, because especially the sexual ones, people. Some people have trauma, some people have shame, some people have bad experiences there, while they have certain boundaries set, like you said, for whether it be for your kids, whether it be for the space that your kids are in, where you have brought another individual into it, and that's not their space, and they don't understand that, and now you got to figure out a way to make that feasible for everybody. That's draining sometimes. Sometimes it's draining trying to accommodate the boundaries as well.
It's almost always draining, because you always got to be aware of everybody else plus you. You know what I'm saying? Like so it's you have to have a level of maturity about you in that space. You know what I'm saying? Like it's and then when you sit back and you kind of see the things that go wrong, you see, like, we're not dealing with too much patience in today's society, in our generation. You know what I'm saying? And when you don't have that patience, that shows at every level. Like you're impatient with everybody. And everybody's doing you wrong, or somebody's making it seem like they got it worse than, like, it's not. Like, we had that conversation in one of the early podcasts. What you just hit, Kay?
I'm sorry. I was testing. My apologies.
I was like, was that a me? Did I do something? Like,
No.
Nah, look, but no, it's in that space where you just have to have a maturity about you, and so do the other parties involved, because you have to realize that at some point, man, like you may be valid in how you feel, but it's three sides of every story, and it's four in this situation, because there's three sides in that story, and then somebody else is looking at that, getting their own perception of what's not even happening. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you get that on both sides of it. You get that in spaces where you hear, women say things about their kids about their kids' parents and their kid's dad in front of the kid, and they think the kid is picking up on that, or vice versa. The boy, the male, do something in space to his mom and don't think the child is picking up on what's happening in that space. So it's in that space of understanding, like, bro, like, you're dealing with a delicate flower here. You know what I'm saying? Like, although we think these kids are a lot more mature and these COVID babies are different, they're still very delicate. You know what I'm saying? Like, so within that time that they're learning and adapting to life and seeing what things are, that's the part I'm a little bit more sensitive about, because that's the part where I feel like I died early on, right? When my spirit was killed, being under so much like not knowing what we were dealing with, but feeling the stress, and then getting molested, and then going to that space, bro, where you just, like, after getting molested, who I was, like, literally died as a kid. Like, I was down figuring out living in paranoia, fear. Why would he do that? Like, what was that? Why didn't I catch that? Why didn't I know he was doing that shit? How did I end up in that? You know what I'm saying? Like, so how did it happen so fast? So you get into that space, man, where you're constantly wondering. You're not thinking about my cousin. I announced I was writing my book. One of my cousins I haven't spoken to, it had been over like 30 years, man, 35. I would say 30 years. It had been a minute, right? He hit me up and he was like, "Cuz, I'm so happy to hear that you're back into writing your books." I was like, "I'm writing? I never wrote before. What are you talking about?" He was like, "Nah, cuz, you used to write when we was younger. You used to sit down and used to write stories about superheroes, and me and your brother would sit down and read them. He said, me and Brandon would sit down and read them all the time, and they were good stories. So I was like, damn, why don't I remember that? But that's the part where I say, like, when like we kill kids before they even get started, because now they're worrying about their mother. They're worried about why they're doing that. They're worried about why their father don't love them. All right, they're worried about, so all right, damn if you pay rent for him to be there for the last 20, 15 years. That boy don't know what that was about. He just know you wasn't there eating nothing with him. You know what I'm saying? Like you wasn't out of hoop and all that other stuff. And it's not to say that what you went through ain't valid. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us go through that shit. And that's the part where it goes through, like, but we have to understand, man, in that space where it's just like, hey, like, they ain't supposed to know that. So let me just go ahead and just be the buffer in that space. And within that space too, you got to understand another boundary where you may have to communicate some things to your kid that you didn't expect to have to ever communicate to them in the way they understand within reason. You know what I'm saying? And then you do that in a space where responsibly, where you don't down the other person. You know what I'm saying? Like, so no matter what's coming.
And that part is the hardest part on trying to deliver a message when the message is distorted. You know, trying to deliver a distorted message in an effective way is so difficult. Like, how do you deliver bad news in an effective way? You know, like you said, you're trying to be the buffer for bad news, and regardless of how you buff it, it's gonna be bad news. Regardless, and then you sitting there like, what's the best way for me to tell the bad thing? Like, you know, it's at
our age, you see the bad side of that, because now you hear a lot of men talking about, like, they always sit back and wonder, like, Mom, why did you leave my father just because he couldn't pay mortgage? You know what I'm saying? Like, and they find out later on, like, it was deeper than that. It was more than just the mortgage. Like, the man was spending the money going to buy drugs. You know what I'm saying? It was all so you know what I'm saying? Like, it's in that space where, like, the boundaries that we put in place, they should help our kids in a space, and sometimes helping our kids is exposing them a little bit of what life is responsibly. You know what I'm saying? In a space where it's like, hey, this is what I wanted. This is how it is. It has nothing to do with you. But this, you know what I'm saying? Like, in that space where you just understand. But I think, like, we get lost in ego in a different way, because men, that pride don't let them be in that space, because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to come into a space where everybody's talking about you and things ain't go right, and nobody knows anything about that side of the story, but they know all your story. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just like, then I start to understand why these men don't show up to birthday parties. Why? Because you in that space and you hear nothing but negative. People are bold. People say things in front of you like they not even like bro, like, hey dog, like, you going my birthday party. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a kids event. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's in that space where you just like you hear a lot of men trash because they run, right? But like it's some men that I commend that didn't run. I'm commending them for not running, because they had every situation too, and they didn't, and they stood and faced it, right? But that space where I've understood when men run, I never agree with it. I've always felt like it was a space where, like, I don't call it so much of a cowardness anymore, because now I understand that mental health, bro. Like, sometimes we're afraid to fucking look at ourselves in the mirror. You know what I'm saying? So now you're looking at a live version of you that has their own opinion of you, and that opinion isn't what you helped grow the majority of the time. So now you're in a space where you're looking at some energy where this kid trying to figure you out, like, you seem cool, but you know what I'm saying? Like, so having to deal in that space as a parent, it's not always just as a dad. A lot of women go through that now too in that space, and a lot of men don't handle it the way it should be handled. They talk down on the mother, but you don't understand, like, within that space, man. All right, even if they are talking down bad on you, why would you destroy your child's mental capabilities now by destroying the other side of what they've known all their life? Now they have nothing to stand on. They don't believe anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, so will it hurt you that bad as the other person to say, all right, Lord, I got you. You eventually it'll come to light, or eventually what needs to be seen, what needs to be known will be known in that space. So, but it's not so much all the time as a man running. It ain't so man as a man choosing. Think about that man where we can't do nothing right. You know what I'm saying? Like, in that space where, all right, it don't work out in the home for that you want it, right? But now you have to find a place to live, or you have to find something, you have to move on. And then now dealing in the space that you're living in, you're probably going to have somebody that has a child. And the moment y'all get close, the natural thing that's going to happen is that you're going to naturally be in that space with the child all the time. But a lot of women don't realize that men are already thinking about that themselves. Like, bro, my kids ain't here all the time. And for whatever reason, they're not here. But I'm loving I'm absolutely loving my kid here in this space. You know what I'm saying? Or the kid that I'm growing in love with, a bonus child, whatever you want to call it these days. Like but now you put in a space where you can't even, you got to feel guilty about that, right? Because now it's in that space where that boundary come in place where you just have to be solid and just being you. You know what I'm saying? Like you just got to be in a space where understanding, like, okay, you tell your kid, like, it ain't like that when you get older. I apologize because you do have your own perception of what happened. You do have your own vision, your own view of life. You do have your own life that you lived out of this. So I apologize, right? But you find that a lot of parents aren't in a space to apologize to their kids, even to this day. You know what I'm saying? But no, another rant. But it's just in a space where it's a very tough space. And I think we try to dumb down the issues of relationships on every angle, and when they are much more complicated. And honestly, like, they're not supposed to be broken down the way we break them down. They're just supposed to be lived. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if you genuinely
I say that all
live,
the time. I say that, you know, people, some people the way that people look at boundaries and healthy boundaries and unhealthy boundaries, you know, those are also perceptional. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, a healthy boundary to you could be an unhealthy boundary to me, and vice versa.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
And, you know, especially when, again, you know, your experiences have looked different, and you know, your kids were raised differently, and you know, their dad might be different than the other dad, or their mom might be different than the other mom. It's just, and then they have to relearn certain things, or even just the factor of like splitting them into two homes, you know, and then you being like, okay, maybe over there, you know, you know, even though when you know, your other parent and I were together, you were allowed to do such and such, but that was because we were together and there was two people able to monitor that. Now that's not what it is. So over here, certain things you can't still do because there's not someone to monitor that or to make sure you're safe. And just because over there you get to do it, you remember what you got. So even just that, I call it reprogramming. Even just that reprogramming, you know, sometimes has to have, whether it be a boundary or, you know, some type of conversation that's had. Because, you know, you can't tell somebody, I know you got your own place, but this is how it goes down, and this is how I want it to go. You know what I'm saying? When it comes down to it. But when it's the other parent, that should always, you know, your boundaries should look very similar, because look, we should both have the same type of concern, structure, and compassion for this child and this child's well-being, as far as making sure that things look a certain way. And if you know, as the other parent, that if I'm setting a boundary for XYZ, you know that I'm setting it for the betterment of our child. So let's get with it, you know. Or and that's with any parent, like that, even with kids that are not, you know, affiliated to me. I don't always, it sometimes some things don't make sense to me because they're just not rational to me. You know what I'm saying? And so even just being like at my kids, you know, sports activities, there's a plethora of different type of attachments, communication styles, and parenting situations, just in that team, you know, surrounding circumstances. And some things I'm like, and then other things I'm like, good, let me try that. And then, you know, but I can't look at their circumstances and be like, because their home might be set up differently than mine.
Facts.
It could allot things that are boundaries to me to not be boundaries for them.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Their kids might be different than mine. So like, and just an example, like my 19-year-old, when he was my 9-year-old's age, he was completely independent. Like he had been a latchkey kid since he was 7 years old. My 9, almost 10-year-old, still, who watching him? Because I don't trust him like that. He's not.
Same with mine. I say the same way.
And so maturity and responsible are two different things. Like, you know, they were both mature for their age, but like the responsibility element of things, my 19-year-old definitely had it at the age that my 9-year-old is now, where my 9-year-old still doesn't have it. But guess what? That's because, like you said, evolution, times change, circumstances change. My 9-year-old had two parents always there. My
Yeah.
19-year-old, he had two parents always there, but it was always from a difference. My 9-year-old,
Wow.
you know, the parenting situation is very close. You know, regardless of our circumstances, it's very close. It's very interwoven. Like you said, your wife and Danita, it's very interwoven. Like regardless, like that's it has to be that way because we have a 9-year-old that's constantly in something. We gotta have a bunch of eyes. You know what I'm saying? So it just looks different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. There you go.
sometimes you get into you know, conflicting boundaries with whatever circumstance that you're in.
That's true. What you got on that, Clyde? You got anything? That's parent
Uh,
talk.
Clyde said that's parent. Yeah.
You said,
Clyde said that's
hey,
parent
look,
talk.
I'm just sitting over here soaking it in. Like, okay, notes. I'm making my mental notes.
no, but
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
real though, man. Because you really gotta be cognizant of the entire situation. Like you gotta be all around. You really gotta minimize yourself sometimes because even in that space of what you may want when them kids at that teenage level, like anybody who had a teenager know, like, bro, we gotta be on the same fucking page because these kids are playing the fuck out of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
Master manipulators.
you know what I'm saying? Like they figured it out. They done figure out how to move and everything. Like I'm gonna say around like 9 and 10, around like 10, they start to figure it out. But around 13, 14, they get bold and move within that space, right? And it gets worse. But then you got to be on that space of understanding. Like, I used to hear, like, I've seen folks be like, nah, like, that's your mother rule. You can do what you can chill over here now. But my thing is like, hey, man, like, hey, I ain't tripping. But you know your mother don't play that. So I suggest you practice the habits you're supposed to practice here because, you know what I'm saying, it's in that space. But hey, if she asks me, I'm gonna let her know, you know what I'm saying, what you did. You know what I'm saying? Give him time to hopefully clean it up. You know what I'm saying? You ain't put me in the mix of nothing. You know what I'm saying? So it's in that space of understanding, like, nah, like, I'm gonna ask your mother what she said. You know, you're not gonna come over here and tell me what she said. No, I'm gonna actually, if your mother said you're punished when you're over here too. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
So it's in that space where you have to be mature, man. Like you gotta, but when do we all have our kids? We weren't mature. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that was things that was what painful ass lessons, right? And a lot of things that I'm still learning now, bro. Like at 40, I'm starting to understand, like, bro, women really are reactive. You know what I'm saying? Like, so some things that you do, it's like it sets y'all off, like automatically. You know what I'm saying? So you got to think, like, all right, some things may be valid, a lot of things may be valid, but some things they be tripping on, and you still just be like, all right, like you got to understand that as a man because that's the role. That's the part where you come in and you have to keep your cool. You can't get inflamed when she's inflamed because now y'all cussing each other out. What y'all gonna fight? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, at this point, you know what I'm saying? Like so it's just in that space where just like that like within the space of co-parenting. Like I want to do a topic on toxic co-parenting. I want to do that early when I first started it, right? Because we don't understand like the implications that has on the child. That that fucks a kid up and gives them a trauma they take in almost every relationship. But they have the pain to unlearn trauma and to unlearn just to live and how to navigate the space of somebody else that you're sharing. Like it's hard because it's like when you're dealing with trauma, you're surviving. So you're in a space where, all right, I had to do this all my life for me to make sure I was good because I trusted somebody else and I seen where everybody else left. You know what I'm saying? So the one thing I know is I ain't gonna leave myself. So I'm sorry if what I'm doing is making you feel that way, but I gotta do this for me. But now I'm in a space at 40 where I understand, like, okay, but what's for me ain't good for you. And if I love you, what I gotta do? I gotta kill a part of myself right now because what's more valuable, that part of me or you? You know what I'm saying? In that space, now you starting to understand the patience that it takes that and the things that you go through as far as like you gotta know a person's psychology because this person might have been raised in a house where they handled money well. They had a abundance of money, but the other person might have been in a house where they grew up poor their whole life. You know what I'm saying? But it don't necessarily have to be a bad thing because you're great in a space of abundance, right? But what happens if you don't have abundance? Now you got somebody that knows how to move in the space of let's get us through, get us back to that space. But we so fucked up in the space of the boundaries that we have and no, you gotta have this or you gotta have that, or you gotta have this lifestyle, you gotta have that, or no, you fucking it up because even in friendship, like, yeah, you shot up faster than your homegirl, your homeboy, bro, but this motherfucker got some experience you ain't never had before that you ain't done living yet. And
or that one's loyal, you know.
Loyal.
You
They don't want nothing
so
from you.
here's my next question. Here's my next question. So, and it's a separate one. So I'm gonna start with Clyde because Clyde been giving it to us the whole time.
Yeah, give it to him.
So Clyde, Dev
It's
ran
a comment.
through.
I was saying it's a comment in the chat too.
Oh, okay. Dev ran down the of the mom.
Oh.
She humanized the man. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hey.
Is that the
That's
wife?
My wife? That's my wife.
Hey, wife. Absolutely, Miss Tina. Absolutely. So, one of the things that Dave ran down the list. And so from that list, you know what I'm saying? My this is gonna go to you first, Clyde, and then it's gonna go to you, Dave. Like from that list, Clyde, like what are some boundaries that you absolutely set for yourself, and what are some boundaries that you set for yourself that you've either expanded in or grown in, or you've accommodated, and they are no longer deep rooted boundaries? And the same question will be for you, Dev.
Okay, you got to run it back again.
No, I don't even feel like I can properly answer that question because, like I said, half of them ones on that list, I ain't even really. I just already know what I won't deal with, what I will, and what I won't deal with. So it's not like I never categorized them, and I can probably only remember 3 of the ones on the list.
Oh no, you don't have to use the category. I'm literally just asking, like, name a couple of boundaries that you've set for yourself.
Really? All right. So I know for my mental, like just to say for mental health sake, you know what I'm saying? I know it's certain things I have to do. Like I have to work out in the morning. I have to do affirmations. I have to meditate. That's a boundary for me because I gotta set that with myself. Because if I don't, I risk having a bad day, or I risk my anxiety peaking. I risk my depression spiking up again. So that's a boundary that I set myself. A relationship boundary, open communication. We have to have open communication. It's very important because if we don't, if you mad at me today or you don't talk to me today and I don't talk to you, and then we mad at each other, like we ain't communicating. Like I don't know what's going on in your life, you don't know what's going on in my life. How can we cohabit? Like how can we be together? That's another one. I'm trying to think. Put me on the spot with no boundaries.
We all on the spot. Your turn.
You agreed to it. You was in the same text thread I was in.
Exactly.
All right, Dev, go ahead. What's name a few of your boundaries.
I mean, for me, the biggest one is codependency, right? And not in a space of like coming from that space where you just, I guess you just want to feel love, like you just want to feel love. You know what I'm saying? Like growing up, like you get dependent in a space where you need somebody to be there, right? And then it's funny because when I was in that space, I didn't think I needed anybody, right? But then when I think back to me being in a long-term relationship since I was like 16, since I was a teenager, since my first daughter mother, like it puts you in a space of, I don't know, like it put me in a space of realizing like how much I gave up of how much time I gave up learning me because I needed somebody else. And then within that space, I wasn't confident in me. So I was trying to, like I said, I was in a people pleaser place where that's why I found out you can't please everybody. Nothing you can do. You know what I'm saying? Like in that space. But it got to me in that space, man, because it was like, all right, I do everything I can to keep you happy, but you're not doing anything to keep me happy. And then when I get into a space of doing something natural that comes with and maturity and growing up, like as a male, like you go look for things in other spaces, right? So it kind of have you like, cheating ain't always done in a space where you just like, fuck you, fuck that bitch, or yeah, I got a girl at home, I got a good girl. And sometimes people go through things that you don't always know between some things, words are said, feelings are felt, and things like that, and you just want to feel some type of love. You know what I'm saying? So you slip up and you end up in situations that are for you. You know what I'm saying? So the boundaries that I had within that space was just making sure that I wish that I would have, and that's why I exercise it so hard now, is just making sure that I'm not codependent. And you know what I'm saying? Like, but I have to also balance that in a space of understanding that I'm living in a space where I have to, you know what I'm saying, act like it's not just me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that codependency balance is what I put on, like the expectations boundaries, my true self. You know what I'm saying? Like in that space of just understanding like used to feel like why don't they understand? Why would you think of me? Like why would you think I would come from that space and understanding like it's not always you. It's what this person experienced. So you go into that space of your true self and having those boundaries with yourself, it puts me in a space where it was just like, all right, and clearly they pissed off, clearly was mad, clearly hurt at this point, or clearly something, but I can't fix it right now. I don't have to beg for you to repair, so I'm gonna just go ahead. And I don't do that to everybody. I do that to the people that I love. You know what I'm saying? Like the people that I love, like people when they don't. People think you are the kindest person, but you really are an asshole. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's not. You only see that if I love you because I don't express it enough to anybody else. So that codependency space, I used to think I had a boundary when it came to sex, but then you have to learn when you learn like as you get older, you mature as a male, like your boundaries with sex, it go in and out. You gotta because you ain't the only person that's having sex. You know what I'm saying? Like so, like unless you know, like some of the people that we hear out here, I ain't gonna, you know, like we hear in the media and things like that. But bro, like social life boundaries, so I have quite a few. You know what I'm saying? But now. I grew up to it. I had to grow to that. You know what I'm saying? What's up, Clyde?
Bro, now like when you breaking them down like the way you breaking them down, I have every single one of those. But I never realized like the type of boundaries that they really was. But I have every single one of those boundaries you just named. That's crazy though.
Oh yeah,
I completely agree. Like definitely like the codependency one, the expectations one, the social life one.
yeah.
Like that's definitely a boundary. I have a social life boundary. I know like my days of clubbing and really going out and partying and stuff. I don't have those. I don't like enjoy that as much as I did when I was younger. So I have a boundary when it comes to that. When people ask me, do I want to go out? I tell them no. Like so that's a boundary. Like the codependency one, definitely have that one because it's crazy though. Like just listening to you talk, like I now I got a whole bunch to say. Like, so, but I
Now
definitely
he
agree
want to
with you.
spin the block.
What you got, Kay? What's yours?
So
Wife is saying you
I've
got a lot of boundaries, bro.
Oh, that's it's actually which one.
I think
Follow not
Wife
so.
name
is saying you
one.
got a
You
lot of.
don't respect none
You
of
have
them
a lot of
right now,
boundaries,
man.
and, but Miss Tina, as he should, you know. So I was going to say that I have learned to place my boundaries in spaces of limitation, because they were not always in. My boundaries were not always were not always in limitation. So you know, it's the moderation that which my boundaries come for. So like, it does. I used to always be I used to always be giving, giving, giving. I was always pouring, pouring, pouring. So I've had to learn that like my boundaries include reserving. My boundaries include limiting, whether it be my time, whether it be my content, whether it be my conversation, sometimes information. You know, my boundaries also include limiting, you know, what I exude, whether it be anger, whether it be disrespect. You know, it's all limiting in whether it be negative or positive, because you know I can only give out but so much of my sunshine, and you know what I'm saying, because I gotta save some for me too. I gotta save some for home. I got, you know what I'm saying, and like that's still a place that I'm struggling in just saving some of my sunshine, because it's easier to you know, to give it out than it is to hold it in. You know, it really,
Yes. Yeah,
especially
yeah.
when like you would, like Clyde and you both said, when you're suffering with mental health issues, and you know you're dealing with the struggles of what's going on in your mind versus what's actually taking place, or you know what you're perceiving things to be happening. And you know, and in all those places I've had to learn that, you know, limitation was my best boundary.
Yeah.
But it didn't always mean in restrictive limitations. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
My
yeah,
limitations didn't always don't always mean being restrictive. You know what I'm, it just means you know, it doesn't mean amount or quantity. It may mean, you know, just I am or I'm not, you know.
yeah.
um
Facts.
or you know, today or tomorrow. Like it really does, it really just goes in that way. Like I definitely have set boundaries, whether they're unspoken or they're unannounced.
Yeah.
But they're always in the form of limitation, because as I get older, my mother had said, I think I said this before, my mother had this saying that like I've got more years behind me than I've got in front of me at this point.
Yeah,
And
fact.
so when you look at things from that aspect, you realize like, tomorrow might not happen. So
Fact.
like I've already given all of that. Today I got to make sure I say something for me. I got to make sure that today, if I was angry yesterday, I got to make sure today I do not be
Yeah.
angry. I have to do everything I can so that today is not an angry day. Or if this week was a bad week, I got to do everything I can so that next week doesn't have 7 days of bad days. You know what I'm saying? I can't
Yeah.
help if next week 2 out of the 7 days is bad. I have to have realistic expectations.
Yeah, fact.
Due to circumstances and unforeseen things. But like they've definitely come in the form of just limiting and limitation and being restrictive and being mindful and being optimistic and not always pessimistic, and being realistic and
Yeah.
understanding and being graceful. Like it's definitely come in those ways, because
Good
there's
work.
things that I want to do that I dial back from doing, because whether it be my partner or it be my children or it be my job or it be, whatever responsibility I have to do for the day, like every day can't be a me day.
That's facts, though. That's facts. What? So.
Or even in my family, like I also have, even my family, I know that you said you don't like this.
What's that?
But my family has not always been my safe haven. It has not always been the place that I turn to.
Yeah, no, facts.
for-
I understand that one. I don't feel no type of way about that.
so I've definitely learned that loving with distance, again, here I go with
Yeah.
limitations. Loving with distance is sometimes safer than being miserable with presence. And so but I also have to understand that I have to communicate that there's still love there, because
Yeah.
sometimes people look at distance as separation.
Yeah.
As opposed to whether it be protection or whether it be just space. Space
Yeah.
doesn't always have to mean distance.
Right.
I might need today. I might, every day I can't deal with certain people in my family because they put me in bad spaces. So
Yeah.
today I don't want to be in that space. So one of the ways for me to avoid it is I can't go around them today.
Facts.
And my relationship to you and my loyalty to you and my, whatever my purpose is to you, whether it be friends, it's friends that I have, that I gotta love you from afar. I can't hang out with you anymore.
Mhm.
My circumstances don't allot for that to be responsible, or feasible for for
Mhm.
the stage that I'm in, this season that I'm in, the part of my life that I'm in, the responsibilities that I hold right now. I can't be in a club like you said, like I was when I was 20 at 40, and expect for there not to be some talks, but there not to be some responsibility not adhered to.
Yeah,
So
facts. I agree with you on that one. I agree. Nah, that's facts. And if I made you feel like I ain't agree with that, nah, I do. I think
I think it
what
was
was
the
it?
family part. You was like, I hate when people be like, I don't deal with my such and such.
No.
Okay.
I was meaning in the space of they leave them. You know what I'm saying? Not that they ain't loving them there. It's in the space where it's like, hey, you ain't on my level, dog. I'm out. Or you like sometimes it's warranted in that space where like we get some toxic shit going on, right? Like sometimes it ain't always in the space of you don't like that person. Sometimes it's in the space of how they make you feel too. You know what I'm saying? So it's in that space where I completely 1,000% agree with you on that one. The what's the other side of that, right? Boundaries. How y'all respond when somebody sets some boundaries on y'all asses?
Ooh, some of them I don't be liking. I don't be liking some of them. I don't be. Oh, that don't go with my boundaries. Some of them boundaries don't. Oh, I don't be liking it. And it does get very difficult sometimes, especially someone's boundaries that I'm not accustomed to, or
Facts.
that it disrupts. It disrupts whether it be my structure or my functionality, and I don't mean in a negative way, but it disrupts like my usual program. Like sometimes it's even more stressful because it's like, how do I accommodate that and still maintain this, or because this is important. But again, knowing your audience, it really does boil down to knowing your audience, because some things are accommodable. Some things are like, you know what, I could shift in that space. I could adjust in that space. But here's my thing. I try not to set boundaries. I try not to express boundaries upon people that will interfere in things that my boundaries are in. So when we talked about co-parent, I try not to impose boundaries on co-parenting that would interfere with your co-parenting, or that would interfere with, and I try to not impose boundaries on relationships that would interfere with your relationship, or you know what I'm saying. So some things I do bite the bullet on, and I'm big at that. Like I'm big again. That's my own self control. That's, I told you I'm working on me. But some things I bite the bullet on. It's things that take place that I don't like, and I just don't say anything, because I got to be mindful that those are, despite that being uncomfortable for me, that's a boundary that I can adjust with, because I gotta. If I triage that and I look at the priority of that for you. You know what I'm saying? If the priority of that for you is higher than my ego, or higher than my opinion, or higher than my feelings, then I'll dial it, that your your necessity is going to come before my ego. It's going to come before my pride. It's going to come before my opinion.
Facts.
That, you know what I'm saying? That's the way I look at things.
Yeah. What you got, Clyde?
I completely agree, man. I completely agree.
Like, how you be though? You like, okay, or you be like, man, fuck me in a little bit.
All right,
fuck
so
in a little bit. Just a little bit.
I think before I started exploring boundaries myself, I kind of used to get a little tight. You know what I'm saying? It's like because I'm the type of person, like, when I didn't have no boundaries myself, I was the type of person that was always overextending myself to other people. So it's like, okay, if I can do that for you, then why you can't do it for me? So all of a sudden now, when I need you to do that for me, is a problem. So, but now that I see that boundaries are important and they are necessary, it's kind of like, okay, I really honestly ain't got no choice but to accept it. And that's just kind of the person I am. Like, I just respect people's decisions. I don't really do too much getting attached to it no more, for real, for real. Because now I don't, like you were saying when you was going through the list of boundaries that you have. Like, I let go of my expectations. Like, I let go of all those kind of expectations. So I don't really expect much of anything. I'm just kind of
experiencing. My wife would be one of that one. You experience.
Yeah, like I'm more in, I like that. That's perfect. Like, so I'm more into experiencing relationships and just living through it and learning as I go, and not really getting too attached to what I feel. Because if I set my expectation on something and then you do something against it, then I set myself up to get hurt. You feel me? So versus setting the expectations, I kind of just like, I wouldn't say go with the flow, but something like that.
Nah, I respect that. That's cool. That's cool. I mean, I'm in the same space. The dude was sting a little bit at first, especially when he unexpected boundary. Like, that fucked you up? Like, that messed you up for real? Like, for real? Like, you know what I'm saying? You adjust, but like you said, now at this age, it's kind of like, all right, like, you treat people how you want to be treated. So if you want your boundary respected, then you got to, by all means, abide by the same rules. You know what I'm saying? Or there's going to be a toxic situation right there. That ain't just for relationships as far as spouse and significant other. That applies to everybody. You know what I'm saying? So,
man, I might have stopped talking to somebody because they put a boundary on me, man. Now that I think about it. I might have stopped talking to somebody thinking they were being funny, for real.
But those,
and again, those, sometimes those are things that, like I said, because some boundaries, you can talk through and work through, and you know what I'm saying, and it just you can learn to grow through them. You know what I'm saying? It's so crazy because I have a friend where one of her boundaries was when it came down to, like, she would not let someone else drive her. Like, she had to be the driver. And I'm like, girl, what you mean? Like, you don't have a vehicle at this moment. Like, how are you going to get there? She was like, I'll walk. I will, I won't go. When she told me I won't go if I can't drive, I'm like, do you realize and this particular thing was minute, but it's like, you realize you're missing out on experiences because you don't have control over something. And that was when I started to look at things like, you know what? If it ain't gonna kill me, then I could probably adjust to it. Even if I don't like it, I could probably adjust to it. My nerves might be a little bad, or whatever it might be. But like, if I look at the bigger picture of like, is this going to benefit me in living? Is this going to benefit, whatever it is for? Like, if it's for my kids, if it's for my better half, if it's for my job, is this going to benefit that situation or my relationship with that situation, with that situation, or is it going to separate it? That's one. Or two, and sometimes boundaries clash. Sometimes boundaries with friends clash with boundaries with your relationship. Boundaries with co-parents and clash with boundaries with friendships. Sometimes boundaries clash. And that's when you start to get in the space of like, when you got to triage and you have to prioritize what that looks like, and even trying to accommodate, or to meet that somewhere in the middle. And like that's when things really, really get tricky, and you have to figure out like, which direction am I going to go? What is this going to look like? How is this going to work? And and that's when you find out, one, how much confidence you have in yourself, and two, how much confidence you have in that other circumstance, whether it be that other co-parent, whether it be that other significant other, whether it be that child, that mother. That's when you find out how much confidence and trust and how safe you feel with that other party in dealing with their boundaries. And I think that's sometimes where we get upset when people place boundaries on us, because we put boundaries in place to protect us. Mm-hmm. And so when you, like you said, you like, what's that for? What you doing that for me? Why is that? What you putting that on me for? Like, I ain't never did that. Why I can't drive you? Sis, I done drove your child everywhere. Why I can't drive you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you don't understand it, but like, it's not for me to get her past that. It's for her to realize like, I'm gonna either always be in the house because I can't drive on certain times, or certain days I'm gonna miss out on a lot of things, or I'm gonna find somebody that I can trust to that on the times when I can't drive, that they're one, willing to drive, and I trust them enough to drive. Like, you know what I'm saying? When you get put in those circumstances.
So question, real quick. So question, when do you draw the line or the boundary between, like, let's just say with your friend, for instance, like, when do you draw the line between accommodating her boundary and stopping her from using it as a crutch, or stop being her crutch? Like, when do you draw the line between the two? Because by giving in to her boundary of not driving, you're also enabling her to keep that mindset. So when do you draw the boundary between it?
So here, like I told you, so again, one, I can't call it her crutch, because when she told me the reason, she was valid. She was valid.
Okay.
It was a very traumatic reason as to why. So if that is the question though, the communication part on like, why is this an issue? Again, why is this an issue? Just knowing your audience, like, why can't I do it for you? If and then respecting, like, okay,
And then
I
respect.
can't.
Okay.
No one can do it for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't think that I would be enabling, or that I would be a crutch, because like Dave said, some things we have to grow out of. You can't push us out of it. Some things we have to mature out of. Our experience have to allow us to feel safe enough and confident enough to move forward in them, or we
But it
have to
should be
have the
when.
correct amount of help to move forward in them. But if I'm not
So it should be when
certified to
she's
help you in
ready.
that area,
Facts.
So it has
The
to be when
support
she's
is
ready.
all you get
So
that for it. Hey, I
that's
understand.
because
exactly. I
I'm
was about
sure
to
she
say
would
that.
rather be out doing what she wanted to do, because she wouldn't have said she wanted to do it. But if this is really debilitating for her, it's not for me to force. One of the things that that our parents used to always be like, I learned how to swim because somebody pushed me in the water. Nowadays, that's trauma. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's
So
survival. If we took every approach as diving head first, we would never realize that some things we should just not touch.
That's facts. Like, diving too fast, you hit your head on the bottom of the pool. You ain't checking to see how deep it was.
And right. So, some shocks can actually,
make it
whether
worse.
it be Yes, whether it be put you in, in more trauma, or, it literally take you up out of here. So, or now your trauma is about to cause me trauma. Because let's say I did say, girl, get in the car, and I force her in the car and we go,
You
and she has a
crash.
complete meltdown and I'm driving. Now we done got in a car accident because I'm driving, and now I have trauma on driving on,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
driving people that start panicking. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's
So,
so I'm already scary enough where I turn the radio down to see.
I think we all do that.
I can't see with all this noise.
But that's true. I do that when you drive. You like,
I
point
never
out and you
understood why
turn the
we
radio
turn the
down.
radio down to back up. Like, I just don't understand. Like, I can't see with all this noise. Like, it's crazy.
But some distraction really is, beyond overstimulate. It literally changes your function. And so that's what I mean. So sometimes, those things that are taking place that you're forced to endure, they literally can change, your trajectory on things, or they can change the trajectory of other people. You never realize how much you can intercept someone's path with your own stuff until you accidentally knock them off course.
Yeah.
Understood.
That's facts. That's facts. No, that's real, man. I mean, shit, that was good. No, but that piece of it too. One thing I've learned with the boundaries is kind of like you teach people how. Like if they're worth it and they put in that work and you see them working, then and they got getting it right, you teach them right in that space where. But that's the part where I'm learning that if I feel like if we look at marriage and relationships how it's supposed to be looked at, that number one, leadership is different than what's taught out there and what's put out there, right? Because then you see that, like I know a lot of times when men are asking women to submit, they don't understand what women submit to. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not what you're saying, it's your actions, right? And you can say what you got, what you want to do, what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, how it should be done. But if you're not exercising that space within your own realm, you can't expect anybody else to kind of do the same thing, right? And it's in that space, man. We about to get up. We got 2:15, 2 hours and 15. We had 2 hours and 4 minutes. We're gonna cut it off at 2 hours and 15. Hard today.
In the words of Dev, we were real loquacious tonight.
We real loquacious tonight. But no, like it's funny because I had that even in this, like I said, we on 39 of this 40-day challenge, right? And I've been kind of analyzing and looking at and being mindful about everything. And I'm looking at like me taking an initiative to go out and work out, me taking an initiative to work to get myself together, and the boundaries that I have for myself. My wife started creating boundaries in the same space without me even saying anything, right? In that space where it's just like, all right, now I turn around, she in the gym with me, or she coming with me. So isn't that, you know what I'm saying? Like if I'm working hard on myself, then if you with the right person, then they automatically gonna start working hard on themselves because you're gonna feel like, oh, wait a minute, like you're gonna take a hard look at like, well, wait, oh yeah, okay, I can't be stagnant when they putting in work, right? That goes vice versa, and I've seen that where I've been blessed, man. I had some good friends and been in space with some presence of good brothers, man. Where I've seen it. You know what I'm saying? Like I've seen men like deal with that. Like when you like, bro, I couldn't do that shit. Like how can you like? He's like, I love it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm gonna make it work. God said this is what it is. He showed me how to make this work in the Bible. I'm gonna do just that. And then I'll be damned if 2-3 years later, this woman is glowing and like just a different type of, but you see what real leadership is. It's patience, it's understanding. If you love some shit, bro, you're gonna do the work that comes with love. You're gonna make sure, you know what I'm saying? The right person will feel that. The right person will adjust that space. So if you're in the space of applying your boundaries and you have to be patient because they're not respecting your boundaries, you consistently follow their boundaries. And one day they're gonna stop and look around and be like, oh, this motherfucker did everything I asked. And now he's legit over there frustrated. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I haven't tried to do not one thing. That tells you what you need to know as far as that person either gonna do the work or they continue to do. So that's when that boundary come in for yourself, where you just like, bro, we've been 5 years. Like, you ain't even trying to respect nothing. You ain't trying to adjust anything. Like,
Clyde's limit. You know, Clyde's 5-year limit.
I didn't realize I hit the 5 years on.
See, that's what I mean though. Like we hit it every week, man. I'm telling you, that's what I meant by the 5 year thing. Like, if I'm patient for 5 years, like if I said just say 5 years my limit, and I wait and I wait and I put in all the work, and then I look over and you ain't did nothing. What am I supposed to do? Like, that's what I was trying to get at, y'all. I'm telling you.
I got you. That makes sense. I understood though. I was just saying in the space of what I've seen and what passed down to me, like what I've seen with my own eyes, like in that space of like, because that 5 years could be worth waiting for. You know what I'm saying? Like at the same time. So it's just like, I can't tell you perspective from my perspective, because I might ruin something for you because you might totally believe what the hell I say. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you off of my experiences. But I can tell you from somebody else's experiences who said they went 10 years and they was frustrated and miserable. And all of a sudden the light went off and this motherfucker's been happy for the last 20 years of their marriage. You know what I'm saying? So
I think it depends on the person and probably their patience, because everybody's patience ain't the same.
Everybody
you might can wait 5 years. My patience might run out after one. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. It depends on what you're dealing with you. It depends on what the person is dealing with, because it ain't always peaches and cream. Like it ain't always like something as I don't know, as shallow. Sometimes it's some major stuff going on where you have to peel yourself away from that situation. But
yeah,
I don't know, man.
Sometimes you do. You have to definitely reinvent yourself in some spaces, where you have to be like, is this boundary for me?
Yeah.
Or is this boundary for the whole? You know what I'm saying? Because again, like I said, sometimes your boundaries clash with the whole, and vice versa, You know, you have to look at the whole. Like, is this whole worth the boundary? Is this boundary worth the whole? Like, you know, whichever way you spin it, you know, sometimes it is literally like that. Because when you deal with two individuals or two parties, you know, whatever, when you deal with more than one, you're always going to have more than one opinion, more than one, more than one mood, more than one experience, more than one perception, more than one idea. You know, so it always just boils down to it, you know, on how like these two things are going to be cohesive. And that's the part where the work comes in, like the cohesive part, like you said, the part of being patient, you know, the part of being graceful, the part of, you know, reinventing yourself and being like, all right, last year that was a boundary, but as of this year, you know, that ain't really been an issue, so does that still need to be a boundary on us? And, you know, or last year that was an issue, and you know, now that ain't really an issue, does that still need to be something that I need to be concerned about? You know, and then just making sure that you go and reevaluate your boundaries, because one of the things that in being in therapy, you know, you learn that. So I know that you're in therapy, Dad. So one of the things, you know, they always be like, okay, it's time for your treatment check-in, your treatment plan check-in. You know what I'm saying? Literally, they dial back down and they go through the things that y'all initially set out to be your goals to try to help with, you know, with coping, or ways to, you know, where you wanted to be at in your treatment and in your healing. And they assess where you're at in each one of those goals. And if you've been consistent in positivity in you know, you might have 6 or 7 goals, and you've been consistent in this one goal for a consistent amount of times, whether your treatment time is 6 months or a year or 3 weeks, whatever it may be. Now it's time for us to be like, well, you got that one. I'm not saying that that's still not things that you need to work on yourself, but you got that one. Let's figure out another one. You know, let's reassess and see, okay, well, now let's see what else we need to, you know, try to figure out and work in. And that comes with a lot of, you know, going back and being accountable, going back and apologizing, going back and sitting down and talking through conflict. Like sometimes bringing the conflict up in a conflicting way isn't necessary, but like taking that time and stepping away from the conflict and then coming back and being like, you know, I was upset earlier, and now I can talk in a manner where I'm not upset. I hope that what space are you in? You know, you got to ask the question, what space are you in? Because, you know, you're never going to resolve conflict with conflict. You're never going to resolve boundaries with more boundaries that conflict. So, you know, sometimes coming back and revisiting and, you know, reevaluating and reassessing those boundaries, like, you know, you'll really learn A, where you're at with things, and B, like, does this still need to be a boundary for this individual, for this circumstance? Because it might still need to be a boundary over here, but with this person, that might not still need to be the boundary.
Fact. No, I agree with you on that one.
I'm not like I'm just saying, man. I be thinking. So I'm just thinking like maybe sometimes in a relationship, sometimes you gotta replace a wall with a boundary because sometimes it's a wall instead of a boundary. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's you stopping yourself from, you know what I'm saying, making them necessary changes or doing what needs to be done to get through certain situations.
Yeah, but I agree. I think looking at that space, right, like now, and if a man know anything, you know nothing, right? But in the space where I am now, man, like what Bruce Lee said back, you know what I'm saying, a long time ago, is like you got to flow like water. It makes sense, right? Because if the water runs within a specific space, you know what I'm saying, like it has its boundaries, but it flows. You know what I'm saying, like it adjusts. So that's how I try to live now. Like now that I'm mindful in that space, I try to be able to flow because I have my boundaries. My boundaries are there for me, but I also have to understand like I have triggers as well, and then my triggers ain't nobody else's responsibility. You know what I'm saying? Like if I don't want to be that person to make somebody feel like I'm a stonewall them if they're coming up. So it's in that space where I try to keep flexible, right? I try to stay as flexible as possible, but it's hard, and it comes with work. And the one thing you said, Kay, like my therapist always told me in a space where it helped me a lot was don't assume. Like you may be valid, but did they say that? Did they? And it seemed like that's what's happening and going on, but is that what? So when you put into a space of assuming, they put in so much because it goes down to simple things where, like something as simple as you hear somebody like, "Babe, why are you mad?" Or something like that. Rather than walking around feeling the tension and taking that, she must be mad at you. No, what happened? Are you okay? Is it something that you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just an uncomfortable conversation. I think a few years back we were in a marriage club, you know, a church we was going to back in the day called AHOP, and they was talking about like the uncomfortable conversations that you have to have. It ain't just in marriage. A lot of times uncomfortable conversations save a lot. But you have to know how to talk to each other too. And you have to know how to slow a conversation down to understand like it ain't personal. This person is taking it in from what they've been experiencing, and you don't know how that day went in detail. Like you don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like so you don't know which trauma been triggered throughout the day. You don't know if she's feeling scared, if he's feeling abandoned, or if he feel. I'm saying like so. It's in that space, man, where you just got to be aware. You got to know, and boundaries are your safety. That's to protect you. So we need those things in the space, man. But I don't feel like the case said, like a year from now, you take a look back, take a hard look at the examine. Like, all right, like I'm past this now. Like maybe I was tripping a little bit. Like. Or was I tripping? Just analyze it. Somebody told me years ago. It was matter of fact, it was my ex. She always told me like we got to argument. She was like, Devin, just turn your pockets inside out. What do you got? And she wasn't talking about money. She was talking about just the accumulation of like you character. Like if you take it all out of your pocket, turn your pocket inside out, put it on the table. What's there? You know what I'm saying? And you think about damn, like I came a long way, but I got so much further to go. You know what I'm saying? Like so. When you constantly humble and you're constantly anchored in a space where you realize you ain't perfect, you realize that you can't throw stones and dance off when you live in a glass house yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just when you come in a space of having boundaries, you gotta analyze them. You can't be so judgmental with you know what I'm saying? Like of course the ones we all know of. You're dealing with the deadbeat. You're dealing with some no good ass motherfucker. You know the boundary that you have to have in place in that. But we're talking about more of tonight, like the boundaries of you wanting to work. You love this person. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the thought where you battle with where it's not always one sided. The way you have the boundaries may come from a space of you ain't getting no vagina every night because she was raped when she was 12. You know what I'm saying? Like so now what's your boundary to her boundary? You know what I'm saying? Now that's an unspoken boundary, but she told you what the trauma was. You know what I'm saying? Like so it's just understanding, man. But I'm trying to get back to all this stuff, and it's showing like it's in a space of saying I did everything right when I was moving in space. This is a space of realization and being blessed to have good people steering me in my direction where, hey man, like yeah, that is fucked up, but can you trust anybody else you can tell that to? Or yeah, that's fucked up, but do she have your back? You know what I'm saying? Like yeah, that's fucked up, but y'all been friends since y'all was 14. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really okay with losing that? Like, sitting down and making you look at things for what it is. Like, yeah, that was. Cause then you see like, yeah, that was big now, but nigga, we done been through some shit. So that ain't
like, that don't seem so big no more.
But no, man, look, we had 216. Clyde, y'all got anything? Y'all can go ahead and get it out.
That was it for me.
Yeah, nah.
Miss Tina hopped on. That's how I know it's real.
Look, Tina stayed up until 11 something to stay on. That's when it's real,
right.
She probably said what I was gonna say about this one. She knew the time what you know, kind of boundary he talking
what he
about.
talk about with his boundaries. Dude, y'all don't even know that my fiance walked in the room a long time ago.
What you got?
What's going
on? Popping shit.
No, that's dope, man. Look, I'll be back. We'll be back for sure next Thursday with another episode of the group, putting together something for Sunday for a one-on-one interview. We are gonna keep this thing moving, man. So I appreciate y'all, Kay and Clyde. Thanks for hopping on. We appreciate the people that were following and interacting, man. Y'all have a good night. See y'all on Sunday or Thursday.